Okay, we're live. This is Monday Night Live on a Tuesday night with the Powerlifting America podcast crew. And we're talking all things Powerlifting America, news, updates, current events, roundtable with Julie Williams and Mike Gold and special guests. We're expecting Tristan Nazelrod to pop through here in about 15 minutes. And then in about 45 minutes, we're expecting Alex Sydor to pop through here. So we've got a couple of guests lined up. Should be cool. And so, yeah, just to reiterate, it is Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. We're on Monday Night Live, and we've got our usual crew, Julia Williams and Mike Gold, and we got some special guests coming through. So I guess off the top, you can tell if you're watching this that Mike Gold was not fired. We talked about it a little bit from the Cayman Islands. He had some personal things that he had going on in his life, really big plans. Basically, we got bumped in the priorities of his life, and so he couldn't make it. But it actually worked out great because without Mike here, obviously we lean heavily on him for a lot of analysis. It forced us to basically just bring in a bunch of guests in the Cayman Islands, and we did that. We had a bunch of guests on the show last week on Monday. Definitely go back and listen to it if you haven't till now. We had Laura Estrella, Christine Castro, Sammy DePass, Khaled Usher, and Lane Norton on the show. We just posted it as a podcast. So like on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, if you're subscribed to us there, you should be able to listen to the audio only version. And as soon as I'm off this episode tonight, I'll post a higher quality video version on our YouTube as well. So definitely go and check that out. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube account so you never miss this. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Powerlifting_America, and you'll never miss an update about when we're going to do these Monday Night Lives. But yes, I was flying back from the Cayman Islands yesterday, basically all day. It was like a 12-hour situation for me. And we were thinking about trying to do it live from the airport, but just with the sketchy Wi-Fi and the noise, and then also with Julia and I just being absolutely busted from the Cayman Islands. I mean, from a super long week long of competition and hard work down there, just wasn't going to be possible. So we decided, all right, let's push it to Tuesday night. So that's what we're doing. Like I mentioned at the top, but in case the live cut off, I'll mention again, we got Tristan Nazelrod stopping by. We got Alex Sydor stopping by. We're going to be talking about all things NAPF, kind of a little mini NAPF recap show with Tristan Nazelrod, and then a mini junior and sub-junior worlds preview show with Alex Sydor. And just to keep you updated on everything that we got going on with Powerlifting America, just don't forget, we've got high school nationals. The registration is open. That's April 19th in New Orleans next year. There's also a logo contest going on with that. All of the information is linked below. So if you're a team out there, or if you're on a high school team, it's open to any athlete. You can try to create a new logo for the competition. And if you do that, you'll get a free entry. You'll get a free t-shirt. We'll probably repost you. We'll maybe have an interview with you on the podcast, get to hang out with me on some Zoom calls while we refine it, and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So definitely go check that out. We'll also have upcoming announcement, competitions that we've announced. Bench Press Nationals, January 27th in Austin, Texas. That will be a qualifier for Bench Press Worlds, which we're also hosting May 25th in Austin, Texas. So that's pretty huge. We've got a World Championships coming to the U.S. on U.S. soil. Last week, if you were listening to Monday Night Live, we also had breaking news. We broke the dates. That we literally got the dates like an hour before we went live on Monday Night Live for Open Classic Nationals. Next year will be March 14, 15, 16 in Reno, Nevada. That's literally all the information that I have at this point. It was the date. And I've also heard that the venue is amazing. It was the venue that hosted Weightlifting World Championships just this last year. So like a world-class level facility. And also with that, the last day, whatever ends up being the last day, kind of depends on how many people sign up, is going to be University Nationals. So that's a really cool idea. I think it's really cool that the University Nationals athletes will be on the same stage and the same platform as our superstars in the Open Classic Nationals, and in a great venue like that. And then the last thing is just to reiterate, we're just coming back from the North American Powerlifting Championships in the Cayman Islands. It was amazing. It was spectacular. It's all this camaraderie down in the North American Championships. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be hosting that competition on U.S. soil in Scottsdale next year. So if you like what you saw this year from the North American Championships, just imagine it's going to be bigger and better than ever. Miriam Elm and Rodney Elm are going to be the actual meet directors who are hosting it down there. They just hosted the age group and equip nationals in that same exact venue in Scottsdale. So it's a great venue. We've been in there before. tons of stuff to do around there. And it's one of the best competitions of the year. It's a really fun competition. So I'm hoping that it's definitely going to be bigger and better. We're going to get a lot more Americans there. We're going to get a lot more people from the other Central American countries and Canada, of course, as well. So it's going to be huge. All right. Any questions about that stuff? Mike, is this the first time you're hearing about the situation in Reno, Nevada?
Well, so I did listen to the entire thing last week. So I did catch it at the end, but multiple people on social media were not happy that it took 2 hours into a podcast for some of the biggest, most important news for the Federation to be spoken about. So
Wow, you're just gonna troll me like that, huh? You're gonna bring up some of the negative comments that were out there. Meanwhile,
listen, I'm here to be the voice of the people. So I'm just saying what I heard other people discussing. I personally, I didn't think it was a big deal because I assumed like you make a post, like you make a post, right? Like
yeah.
Most people are not going to be catching it live, whether it's the first minute or later in the podcast. More people will see it when you put a post up. So I didn't think it was such a big deal. But I just saw people complaining about it. So I thought it was
it's
fun.
interesting that those complaints really helped get the word out about it. Anyway, nonetheless, obviously they could have made it, got the word out in a little more positive way. Maybe cut us a little slack, show a little bit of grace. Given that we literally got the information an hour before we went live, we already had a bunch of guests lined up that were sitting there waiting, and then on top of that, basically everyone on our team, on our EC, including the person who signed the contract, was there in the Cayman Islands coaching 104 athletes at one major international competition. So there's certainly not time to make a post or anything official along those lines. And there still hasn't been, because it was a grueling week of competition in the North American Championships. I mean, basically I was putting in 14, 15-hour days. Our coaching staff was starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 11 p.m. every night. So, I mean, it was just absolutely grueling trying to coach 104 athletes in a matter of 5 days of competition. It's really tough. And then obviously there's a lot of details that I still don't even have the details. Like how do you qualify? How do you qualify for the U.S. national team next year? What's the selection process going to be for U.S. national? Obvious questions that if you make a post like that you need to have answers for. So we don't have those answers. So we just want to get the information out there. And obviously we want to push Monday Night Live, and the Powerlifting America podcast is where we're going to be able to release breaking news as it happens. So like I said, happened to run into Tamara Lopes, and she happened to give me that information just literally, right before we went live. So we got it out there as best we could. Of course, some people in the sport don't want to cut Powerlifting America any slack, and we're small fed. Basically our whole team is down there. So I'm not in any way ashamed of how we did it. And I think we got the information out there, and that's a good thing. And obviously our responsibility, especially for our coaches, is not to be making, posts about something that's happening almost a year in advance. It's to be coaching the athletes, the 104 athletes that they have right in front of them competing that week. So that's definitely the priority. But now that we're back, I think most of our team is getting back yesterday and today. And then, some of us, like including Tamara and including a lot of other people on our team, are going to Romania in a week. But hopefully in this week, we can get some answers on some of the finer details, make an official post somewhere. So, but yeah, that's the story on that. Mike, any further ideas, thoughts on that?
Yeah. So either way, just on a positive note, I really like the idea of having the university nationals in the same place the day after. I think it's just a very good experience for any of the college lifters, like junior age lifters who either think that hopefully in the future they're going to be like at that top level open lifter, or either way, just to be able to compete in the same place as all the top open lifters. And if they get there early, they get to watch open nationals, they get to meet all those lifters. So I think it's always a cool experience to do that rather than completely separating it. So I like that.
Yeah. And let's remember to try and ask Alex Sydor about it, because him and Carolyn competed at open nationals this year as juniors, and we can kind of get a sense, I think it's a really cool concept of where our nationals are now, that we can have juniors and sub juniors competing and masters competing in with the open division. And then we can also now have the university nationals on that same platform, and they can come hang out and watch all these battles that we are going to be talking about. We don't want to go into the details too much, but there's going to be, open classic nationals is going to be massive next year. So yeah, it'll be really fun for them to come out, have a good reason to come out and watch that stuff in person. So, All right. Any other thoughts on that stuff? Julia, do you have anything?
Um, no, just I mean, like you said, it was wild. I think when did we get done that podcast? It was like 3 hours long. We got done at like 11 p.m. Yeah, I mean there was
Later.
virtual,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we were up at 6 the next morning for weigh-ins and stuff. I mean, and then just super long days. It's hard to get stuff done when you're doing that kind of stuff. So definitely, like I said, responsibility to the athletes that are there in front of us that we need to coach, and on our side to cover their competitions, as opposed to making announcements and things like that, which, like I said, we don't even have all the information on our side to make an announcement.
Well, and also like some of those, like there were multiple athletes in like um each flight, both like all of the days, and sometimes there were up to three flights. So, and also because it is like mixed with masters and open and juniors kind of in the same session. There or yeah, 3 sessions per day. It all the coaches are back there all the time. It's like
Yeah.
none of them had any downtime. It's not like they had like one session of masters and then one session of open. Like before me, the 63, 69 juniors and masters were lifting. And then I was like the next flight, and then it started all over again. So
Yeah.
there's free time for anything to be done, really.
It was tough. It was crazy, Mike. You can only imagine, like, you were in Malta when we had 16 athletes. We had 104, man. And in Malta, we had those 16 athletes spread across more days. Here we had 104 crammed into 5 days. It was wild. It was definitely the most difficult job I've ever done, as far as just trying to cover them and just be standing on my feet and running around like crazy, like I do at competitions, for all of them, and trying to show them all love. And it's, obviously we make mistakes, and we're definitely fallible, but we definitely tried our hardest. And anyway, we will get an announcement out. For now, people can mark their calendars. They know the dates. They know that the venue is going to be good, and it's going to be stacked to the brim with loaded competition. So that's about all you really need to know at this point. There's plenty of time to settle out the rest of the details. As soon as there's a link for registration, we'll post that. As soon as there's a page up on the website where you can have the registration information, hotel information, all that kind of stuff, we'll post that for sure. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into then our North American Championships sort of recap. We're going to bring in Tristan here in just a bit. I'm expecting him to be here like in probably the next 5 minutes. But before that, let's just go ahead and do like a quick, like, overall summary of what happened. To start off with, it was the biggest North American Championships ever, 280 athletes from 14 countries. We had a good, huge squad, 104 athletes, like we mentioned, all age groups. And as we mentioned in the preview article that Julia and Amy Hutchison wrote, we had 17 former world champions there. Also, so getting into the results, the U.S. swept the team awards in all four open categories: classic men and women, equipped men and women. The U.S. also won 7 best lifter awards out of 15, which also shows that 7 out of 15 is good, but it's not a absolute sweep or anything. So it shows that there are some great lifters from this region. In fact, the highest good lift points of anyone there was Kafui from Canada on the men's side, and Sammy DePass on the women's side. For us, the highest good lift points was Philip Trong, the Trongster, as we call him, because he's a monster. And he had the highest good lift points of any American with 100.7. And if you do the age adjusted IPF good lift points, John LaFlamme had the highest with 128.7. That's a whopping score, a 128.7. And Gail Williams had a 115.7 on the women's side. So those are huge numbers. Amy Hutchison actually made a post today that I happened to come across that said that the U.S. team broke 15 world records, 54 NAPF records, 56 first place finishes, 24 second place finishes, and 11 third place finishes. I'm not sure about that information. I have not verified it, but either way, even if it's remotely close, remotely accurate, that's great. I mean, that's a ton. I mean, and so people talking about wanting to have a competition where you have a chance to go and show off that isn't the World Championships. This is that meet where you can go and break world records. You can break North American records. You can go up against stars in the sport like Kafui and Sammy, from other countries like Bryce Krawczyk, Eric Willis, these kind of people. So, and then of course you can support the region and help grow the sport in all these other countries so that they come up as well. Because we had great performances by Costa Rica, and Puerto Rico had great performances. Mexico, Nicaragua had some superstars on the equip side. So it was a really cool competition overall. Each evening, the atmosphere was just absolutely electric. So there was always a session that was kind of in the evening, like 6 o'clock start time. And it was just absolutely packed in there. It was a small room, so it felt super close and tight and super loud. So yeah, the Jonathan Garcia, Dalton LeCaux session was packed right from the beginning. That was the first day. The Luella session, which also included Claire and Melissa Copeland and Lillian Jackson in these 2 flights. I mean, they were all breaking world records. Like Melissa Copeland broke a world record. Lillian Jackson broke a world record. Claire was in an epic battle with Sammy. And Christine Castro was in that. Also, our super good friend from the Dominican Republic, the Queen of the Dominican Republic, the Amanda Lawrence of the DR, Laura Estrella was in that session as well. So it was just like an absolutely popping session. It was great to see. Of course, the Battle of the 120s. You had not only the Battle of the 120s, but you had Ray Williams making his international platform debut in there. And that was definitely by far the most packed and stacked session, the loudest for sure. Brought down the house. And on the last day, Manolo Campos attempted a huge squat on the equipped side, also a huge bench. That was the electrifying for the crowd as well. On our end, we've got tons more media coverage coming. As I said, just being able to run around and film all 104 athletes was a struggle in and of itself. So obviously editing all that footage and getting it posted, there's tons more to do in the next coming days. So also, again, we have that Monday Night Live from last week. You can see some interviews with some of these people that are really the heart and soul of the North Americans, the North American region. And so definitely go check that out. But all right, with that, let's go ahead and bring in the reigning 120 kilo national champion and also now the 120 kilo North American champion, and that is Tristan Nazelrod. So Tristan, are you with us, sir? Looks like we got you popped in here, and you just go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go. What's up, man?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good stuff.
So Tristan's internet is notoriously slow from our previous podcast. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it sounds like there's a little bit of a delay, but it should be all good, man. First of all, congratulations on your huge win at the North American Championships in the 120 kilo open class. You're now the reigning national champion and the reigning North American champion. And you've now defeated some superstars. I mean, you've beaten Enrique Lugo, you've beaten Mike T twice, you've beaten Bryce Krawcheck. So how does it feel, man? You've beaten Kalen from Belize, right? Can't leave him out because he's a stud too. So how's it feel?
For sure. Oh, it feels great. I mean, anytime you go down and kind of execute on a plan and things fall into place how you want them to, that always feels good. I know I knew this competition was going to be tough. Like you said, all 3 of those guys that you named, any one of them could have had a day and come out with the win. So to be able to kind of control what I can and take home the gold for the day, I was definitely happy.
All right, great. So we want to open it up to questions from Mike and Julia and myself. So let's first start with just kind of going through your experience with the North American Championships, and then we'll get into some more general talk about some of the other weight classes and some of the other battles and things like that we saw down there.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So first, why don't you just go ahead and take us through the day, how it started off with the squat?
Yeah. I would say, so my approach for this meet was to whittle down my body weight even more than I had prior to nationals. And I would say for the past several years, I've been just slowly getting lighter and lighter before the actual competition, to the point where this time I only had to cut about 3 to 3.5 kilos the week before. And that's compared to nationals, I was cutting about 5 kilos, and nationals the year before this year, I cut 6 to 6.5. So it's just slowly narrowed. And what I felt like has happened is I can get momentum earlier in the day. My squats, because normally how it would work is I would start to feel the water getting back into my system by the time I hit the platform for squats. And then by the time squats were over, I was starting to feel a little bit more like myself. This time around, I just felt good starting from warm-ups, and it carried through, you know. I felt like on a very good day, that North American record was going to be there with 3:55.5. And that's exactly what we had. Loaded it up, and dare I say there was a little bit left in the tank.
You may say, bro, you may say, because yeah, it moved. And man, you were so hyped for it. I wonder if there's a little bit of like, just one thing you can't account for is just the adrenaline, right? Like, I mean, like it moved faster probably than you expected. Maybe just chalk it up for adrenaline.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm one of those people, and I would never suggest this to anyone probably, but like I train very mellow. So like I don't do any of the hype stuff in training. I just kind of do my job. And then on meet day, I crank it up to 11. And I tend to feel like there's a little bit of a carryover there to my lift.
For sure. Mike or Julia, you got any questions about the squat?
Yeah, I would just say, you said like there might have been a little bit left in the tank. Watching it like on the screen, it seemed like there definitely was a little bit more. I saw it when you did that 750 squat like 2 weeks out or something. It was like a week or two out, I guess. That moves really well.
Yeah, 2 weeks out.
2 weeks out. Okay. So I was thinking, if possible, like 800 looks like it's like close. And then that third attempt, like there was, I don't know how many kilos. I don't know if it was 10 kilos or whatever. Oh, we're getting this clipped. Okay.
You can go ahead. You
yeah.
can keep talking.
There we go.
Keep talking
Yeah,
over.
so,
I'm going to just play Tristan's
I mean,
video.
The opener was a warm up. That was, and then we get to the third attempt and you load the NAPF record. And I mean, obviously you were trying to make sure you were 3 for 3 on squats and like get a big lead after squats, because you were in like there were 4 like top level competitors in your class, which is like pretty amazing that we're at NAPFs and there's 4. I think all 4 of you would have totaled would have been in prime time at Worlds. All 4 of you, I'm pretty sure. So like we're literally getting a battle of like not just people like world level competitors, but like the top half of the world level competitors. So I mean, it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, and you kind of nailed it there. There were a couple variables coming in with training where, like I said, I was kind of whittling my body weight down as training was happening leading in, and you get that little bit of a leverage difference. Like you can tell there's a little less of you underneath the bar when you're squatting, whenever you're losing weight. And I just think I was getting used to that. So that 750 squat that you were talking about, like, it's kind of funny to hear your outside perspective that you were thinking, oh, 800 may be there. It felt not great in my like head. And that was just mostly because leverages were a little bit different. I remember the squat before that 750, 720 moved very slow. And I was like, uh-oh, this should be an opener-ish on game day. And then I hit the 750, convinced myself it moved fast enough. And it certainly did, watching back. And whenever we get to meet day, I had an idea the number was going to be around 350 kilos or that 355.5. The main benefit of that 355.5 was the chip. And as you were talking about with top level competitors, if you can get that half kilo onto your total to make someone possibly take an extra 2.5 kilos somewhere to try and jump it, that can be a huge advantage. So whenever I talked to Rodney Elm, who was the head coach of the US team down there, we basically said, hey, there may be more. Like, there's a chance I smoke my second, and there's more than 355.5 there, but it doesn't make any sense to like try and stretch it any more than we have to. Let's take that 0.5 and kind of get that momentum rolling in the right direction. Now, the last thing I'll say is, because training was kind of held back a little bit with that weight loss coming in, my plan now is to kind of maintain myself at like 123 all the way until nationals. I'm going to have 6 months to get used to those new leverages. And that's where I think things can hopefully get exciting as far as numbers go.
So that's a very interesting point, because you see a lot of lifters, especially the highest level ones, are cutting, let's say, like 3% of their body weight or something like that, like a water cut. But obviously the advantage of doing the cut beforehand, where you're not cutting from like 124 the night before, is that you don't have to worry about recomp. I mean, you don't have to worry as much about recomp and stuff, because you're just doing a small water cut. But you're thinking about staying at a light body weight like throughout, where you really just don't have, it's really not a factor.
Yeah. And really it's probably just a rebound from where I did exactly what you were talking about, to the point where, you know, like in 2019, where things really hit a head for me being way too heavy. I was 10 kilos over 5 days out, and I was water cutting those 10 kilos, and it was absolutely miserable. And it wasn't that my performance suffered that much, but it was like so miserable leading in that, like, mentally there's a switch you have to turn on that's like, I feel terrible, but I'm going to be okay on meet day. Whereas this kind of new approach is more of like a gradual just continuation of momentum. There's no dip anywhere. And I've really enjoyed that the week of.
That's exciting, man, because you're obviously already putting up big totals, but just to think about where the future, when you keep this strategy going for the future, what it may hold for you. Julia, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I saw, Mike Teixeira was called for, I believe it was depth. I'm not quite sure, on his first squat. How much were you paying attention to that? I mean, I know, like, I have a similar, I'm in a similar situation to you, where I came in a little bit lighter, and so my leverages were different. Did that get into your head at all? With the slight leverage change and everything, or were you not really paying attention?
So as far as the day of with leverages, I would say that was out of my mind completely. It didn't bother me at all. Looking at these warm-ups, these are as good as they felt in years. So I definitely had nice momentum going into that first lift. Now, I was kind of forced into watching Mike's first attempt because I was the lifter after him. So, like, I'm in the on-deck circle, and I just happened to catch the lights. It wasn't like I was looking at his attempt or trying to figure out what happened. But I just kind of saw it by proxy. Now, when something like that happens, and in my mind, my competitors are out of my control. Mike, Kalen, all three of the guys, like you said, they're world-class lifters. I expect them to execute on every single lift. So to me, I just, in my head, have it set that they're going to make all of their lifts, and I'm going to have to make all of mine, and then whoever's strongest is going to win. Now, seeing someone have a technical mishap like that, and like looking back, Mike crushed that squat. He told me himself he felt like he cut it a little bit, and those things happen, just little mental errors. But in the moment, there is a little bit of momentum to be had. Like, part of me wants to tell you that I don't care at all, right? And they do their things. But whenever you see a competitor miss a lift, there is a little bit of a feeling of like, okay, this is my chance. Like, the door's open, I have to go execute. And that just kind of feeds momentum into you. Now, I don't know how you all feel as competitors as well. I'd be curious to find that out.
Yeah, Julia, what do you think about that? Do you watch and do you see what if your competitors are missing or not?
Yeah, I mean, I've such a bad habit of worrying way too much about my competitors. I mean,
Oh, especially at this competition, Julia, you were very concerned.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think in a case like Tristan's where I'll say this, I think that my competitors were a lot closer to me than what was portrayed at the meet on the platform. And it, you know, maybe they took a few too many warm-ups or maybe some disadvantageous attempts, whatever. But when you're in a situation like Tristan is, where everyone knows exactly what they're doing, they've been doing this for years, it's a really different situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I worry about that stuff. But yeah, it's a bad habit. And the more you can not do that, the better.
Just for reference, Julia won by like 27.5 kilos. She won her weight class, the 63 Open. And her biggest competitor was Pamela Santos from Panama, who missed her third squat and missed her third bench. So, Julia, at that time, were you aware that she had missed those lifts?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually focused on the Trinidadian girl because she opened the same as me and her squats were looking really strong. And she was taking big jumps, but then I noticed that they both missed their attempts. And it did help a little bit, but you know, I'm not the best deadlifter, and you never know what happens. You never know what can happen going into deadlifts. I think Tristan had a similar situation with Mike pulling for like a world record or something crazy. I mean, it was out of reach, you know, by that time, but you know, you just never know. It's nice to know you have a cushion, but yeah, I mean, you know, the same thing could happen to you and at the next lift, and it's like,
yeah. So you're talking about the Trinidadian girl. Yeah, she opened 150, same as you, jumped to 160 and missed it twice. And then she missed a third bench as well. And, you know, by the time she missed 160 twice and you did hit 155 and then 160, you went 8 for 8 and then only missed your final pull. So, you know, you applied a lot of pressure and, you know, got the dub. And it's true though. She was very concerned in the warm-up room before everything started about it, but you know, put aside the nerves and went out there and handled business. But that was a really good insight between the two best lifters on this podcast. I don't know, Mike Gold, what's your take?
Well, you already know I get into trouble. I root against my competitors.
Oh, so. Yeah, exactly. Mike Gold is the absolute like most ruthless competitor. Go ahead, give your take on that.
Assuming you're in a situation where you have a chance of winning, you're there to win, and winning, obviously, in an ideal world, you win because you hit 9 lifts and they hit 9 lifts and you're stronger. But sometimes you're not stronger. And if your goal is to win, then your goal is to win, regardless of how that happens. So, yeah, I straight up root against them. So
he's putting it very lightly. I think in the past on this podcast, he said something along the lines, he wants them to fail, for sure.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
I'm rooting for them to fail, and I'm clapping when they fail.
we call this.
So if I could,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tristan.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, if I could jump in, I feel like that is 100% reasonable. And even though I'm not someone who's going to outwardly clap, I think the competitor in us, whether we like it or not, there's probably a little bit of relief, or like I said, there's that momentum built. Like, you can build your own momentum by making lifts, but you can also have momentum built by your competitors missing lifts. So, you know, you being so outward about that, it's hilarious, but it's mostly hilarious because I think a lot of us might think that way and maybe just not say it. So
100%. Everyone feels a sigh of relief when their competitor misses something. They're not like, oh, damn, that really sucks. I wanted to beat them at their best. When it's close and you might lose.
Except for the people that clap when their lifter hits to win.
you can clap them on if they win, but inside you're probably thinking, damn, I wish they would have missed. But Julia, what were you going to add to that?
No, I'm just saying, this the NAPF is like nicknamed the Friendship Cup, and we're out here like hoping our competitors miss, but it is what it is. Like, if you know that you're not the stronger lifter and you want to win, then there's only one way that's going to be accomplished. So.
And Julia definitely was not clapping for her competitors, especially, from these other countries. But in our case here, we had our two boys. They're both Americans. They're in a battle. It's been hyped forever. So they know they're going head to head. They're friends in real life. It's good sports. It's good. It's actually, taking your competitors seriously and showing them that respect by really doing whatever it takes to get the dub. So I think that's a really cool approach. All right. What else? Anyone else have any other any comments or questions for Tristan about how he's feeling going into squad? You want to say anything else? Go ahead, Tristan.
Yeah, I had one more thing just to go off of what Julia said that I think is a good point. So like comparing those squat attempts, I'll be mistaken maybe here. I think you said she went 150, 155, 160.
Yeah.
And then the competitor went 150, 160, miss.
Yes.
Looking as a coach or a spectator or even a lifter who's like following the numbers in the back there, that might look like your competitor was in the stronger position because a second attempt was 160, which was 5 kilos higher than your second attempt. And it would be so easy to fall into that trap of like chasing your competitor's attempts. And it sounds like you didn't do that. You kind of played your game. And all of a sudden, you go from second attempts, they're in this 5 kilo projected lead, to after third attempts, the tables have completely turned and you have a 10 kilo lead. So that's like 15 kilos worth of total that has swung just in attempt selection.
Yeah, and we've seen this now. We saw it with Natalie Richards and Jad Jacob. Jad had a huge nominated total advantage or a huge advantage on openers, and then Natalie ends up winning pretty handily. Same thing here. So yeah, really good points on that. You can't chase; you got to do your thing. And you both were handled by Rodney Elm, right? So, he also coached y'all to make the right attempts. Especially in Julia's case, he's such a calming presence. On Tristan's case, he didn't do a whole lot to hype you up, but he didn't really need to because you were hyping yourself up like a maniac.
Yeah, there's not much left to be said on that.
For sure. All right, let's go ahead and move on into the bench press then. And while take us, unless anyone had anything else, and take us through the bench press, and I will play the video while you're talking as well. Julia, do you have something? Sorry, real quick before.
No, I'm trying to pull down the screen so I can access the. I'm trying to get out of full screen mode so that I can access the.
Okay. All right. So you figure that.
I got it.
Yeah. So Stephen Crane, who is in the chat right now, he's the live stream commentator that commentated pretty much the whole thing. He also, hats off to him, by the way, was one of these people like myself and Mike Z that were there for, and a lot of our coaching staff that were there for every single session, every single flight, all the way through, like this grueling schedule. It was absolutely crazy, but he pulled it off. He said it's interesting that Mike is Bryce's coach and that they're going head to head too. Yeah, definitely. We can talk about that a little bit as we go through, because I definitely I was looking for that. I took some pictures of them in the same frame, kind of facing each other and facing in different directions from each other, and then also some pictures, some video where Bryce would be walking off and you get a little fist bump from Mike T there, but also not many words were spoken. So it was very interesting to see these three guys that are all friends in such an epic battle. But okay, so take us through your bench and I'll play the bench video while you're talking.
Yeah. So bench honestly was the pressure point, in my opinion, going in. I felt like I underperformed on bench so much from nationals. I was still kind of bitter about that miss. So that was some motivation. But kind of looking at the other lifters, kind of what I expect, and I'll use Mike as a great example, right? So I out squat Mike by a significant margin, right? So I think I gained like a 37.5 kilo lead after squats. And then he out deadlifts me by a significant margin, right? So it's funny because those are our two best lifts, but we kind of cancel each other out, and then we're left with the lift that both of us are, I think we would agree, the it's our lesser lift, we'll put it that way, right? But because of that, whoever outbenches the other person has a great advantage, and that's really where the kilos could be added on. So for me, and this was the main reason for cutting down my body weight, because bench overall is most affected by those changes in leverages. I was able to have a more consistent bench leading up to this competition. And this 217.5 was the first time I'd hit a PR at 120 since 2018 or 2019. So it was really nice just to go 3 for 3 and kind of build that subtotal. Like Julia said, I knew I was going to be in a position where I'm just sitting and watching them pull giant numbers after I'm done. So yeah, it went really well.
Nice. Anyone have any questions here on bench? We're just taking a look here at that third attempt, and it moves really nice, man. I mean, again, looks like there might be some extra kilos there. What do you think, Mike Gold?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. You hit the 475 in the gym with like moved well, and then this moved like similarly, like looked more like a second attempt. But like looking through the numbers at the time, and then again I re-looked through the numbers. By the time you got to the third bench with Mike missing his opening squat and then missing his third bench, and then just at the numbers after bench, just going 3 for 3 on bench really put you in position that it would take something like near impossible for somebody to catch up. Meaning you had such a big subtotal lead by the time you got through your third bench that even though you had both Bryce and Mike T, who are both capable of pulling for the deadlift world record. I mean, Mike pulled for it and missed, but like Bryce previously owned it. I'm saying these are two of the best deadlifters in the class, but even with that, they still weren't within reach. So I guess that's where it comes down to just executing the game plan. I assume you had like basically what your bench attempts would be, and you stuck to it, and they moved well, like similar to squats. And then by the time you got finished with that, the other competitors didn't necessarily have the first 6 lifts that they wanted, and you basically were already had it locked up.
Well,
yeah, and that's
go ahead, Tristan.
Yeah, that's just a great example. So my bench game plan going in was 205, 212.5, and then 220 on a good day. But I knew my personal record was 217.5. And also knowing that there were some missed lifts by my other competitors going into that third bench, walking off after the second bench attempt, that's where me and Coach Rodney Elm kind of made the call, hey, let's take the more conservative third bench, take almost like a guaranteed 5, basically, rather than risking a 7 and possibly missing it, to, like you said, kind of lock down that giant subtotal lead. I think a less experienced self, maybe 5 years ago, I would have said, hey, let's go for 220. That's what I think is there on the day. And if something goes wrong, then all of a sudden I'm in a scrap deadlifting against the 2 best deadlifters in the world, or 2 of 3 best deadlifters. So, yeah, that's a little bit of strategy there.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I always try to tell people, they don't always listen, that especially when you're ahead, like never sacrifice, let's say 5 or 7.5 for the extra 2.5. Like people will be like, should I jump 7.5 or 10? Like, don't, if you're not sure about that last 2.5, don't sacrifice all the kilos, especially when you're in the prime position. If you just hit your lifts and you might leave 2.5 on the table, but the bottom line is, if you're in the position that you are and you make your lifts, you're forcing everyone else to get way out of line to try to catch up. So,
yeah, exactly.
I think because I made a post on this in the middle of the meet. I posted a video on the Instagram story of Mike T hitting his last warm up on deadlift, and it was a big pull in the back room. And I said he's 53 kilo. I think it was 53 kilos behind or something like that. And I was like, but he's not out yet, because I had heard rumors that he was going to be trying to pull for the deadlift world record. And you just never know with these big deadlifters. And obviously I'm not really like looking at the board very closely, and it's Mike T, and also the other thing I would say is I did notice that you were cramping, or at least you were getting work done on your back, like in between, I think after squat and after bench. I saw Rodney over there, like, pressing on you or using the vibration gun. And obviously you were doing your signature, French's mustard eating in between as well. So I figured, maybe that was just, so tell us a little bit how you were feeling, as far as, was there any issues with cramping or anything like that?
No, it was actually pretty preventative. So I'm notorious for cramping kind of between my lats and low back whenever I bench. And most of my missed bench attempts tend to be because I cramp in the middle of them in that sticking point. So the massage gun tends to relieve that, but only for a short period of time. So I just told him, hey, work on my back between each time, no matter how I'm feeling. That way I don't cramp up and regret not doing it, basically. So fortunately, it wasn't playing a big role in the moment, but it's one of those things you have to take into account. I still did water cut that 3 kilos, so getting everything back in was a priority. And same thing with the mustard, trying to prevent as much cramping as possible on the day of.
So you, at this point in the comp, like I said, you're ahead by 50 kilos. You've hit a squat PR, I believe, correct? Pretty nice one too. Looks like maybe like,
it was like
7
kilos.
8
kilos or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then you put up a bench that I think was just 2.5 below your best. So you're having yourself a hell of a day here, right? Am I getting your numbers right?
I mean, I would dare to say perfect day. The bench, even though it was 2.5 kilos below my best, that best was hit at a 132 kilo body weight. So it was a 2.5 kilo PR as a 120. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So a couple of PRs, you're probably feeling pretty good. Take us into the strategy and the how deadlift unfolded.
Yeah. So pretty much I pulled Rodney aside and we talked after bench, and I just said, hey, you put on whatever we need to pull to win, and I'll go do it, right? Total faith in him to call the numbers. Basically, I only plan 2 deadlift attempts with my coach, Bill McCarthy. Shout out to him. We talked over the phone. I like big 20 kilo jumps usually. So we did 320, 340, and then we don't plan a third really. It's essentially what needs to go on the bar for the win. Now, it was one of those weird situations where after the second attempt, things seemed like they were going to be locked up. I knew Mike was going to have to try a 393 kilo deadlift to get into that gold medal position after the second attempt. And, I told Rodney after, because long story short, I missed the third attempt, and it's been haunting me ever since. I'll talk about why here in a second. But afterwards, I was like, hey, if Mike pulls 393, he deserves this gold medal. Because we were set up in such a good position, and that would be such a massive pull. Now, going back to knowing where your competitors are, and this is something that I need to learn from, and I certainly will. If you watch on this deadlift here, it doesn't really show it here, but on the replay, you'll see it. I covered it up. Great. Whenever I grab the bar with my left hand, the bar starts to roll away from me in a divot.
Yep,
right
there you
here.
see it. Yep.
Right. So it starts to roll. And I was basically this is ego. Right. So what I should have done was recognize it started rolling, took a step back, reset myself, and done the whole setup over again, because I would have had time. But in the moment, I saw it rolling and I said, oh, it's okay, I'll roll it back into me. But whenever I did that, I missed time sitting down into the bar, because normally I set my bar right over my shoelaces.
Yeah.
So like here, and it caught.
We're losing you right now. We just got you. You just froze for a second, my brother. Hold on 1 second. We just lost you for a second. Let's reset it. Let's reset it there. Tristan is talking about this final deadlift here, and if you watch on this next replay, you'll see as it comes forward. Right here, we're watching it closely. He bumps the bar, and it just takes a little roll forward right there, and that's it. And he tries to roll it back, and that's what he's talking about. So Tristan, I'm gonna ask you to unmute again here, because you were just totally cutting out. We couldn't hear you. Now it looks like you might be frozen. But okay. Julia, you were gonna say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have something to say about that. I had a similar thing happen to me, not quite the same, but the bar, when I came out, I think it was my first and my second, I'm not quite sure, but it was crooked, and I tried to roll it back into place before I set up, and it wouldn't go back into place. Like, it was still crooked, orientated to the platform. So I felt like I was pulling diagonal. I kind of noticed that too. I don't know if that was like the platform itself, or, what was going on, or I was just, the same thing where, the adrenaline just kicks in. But I had a similar one. And luckily, I was able to open very light, and it wasn't so much of a problem for me. But I noticed that I think I lifted on day 2. So that was already kind of an issue at that point.
Yeah. And Tristan, I think that you said that you actually hit the bar with your foot, with your shin, and that's what pushed it forward. It wasn't that it just rolled kind of like randomly. Maybe it was kind of on an edge of a divot or something where just a little touch made it roll. But is that what you were saying, Tristan? Are you back? Looks like Tristan is delay. He's still frozen, so it's okay. Tristan, I'm gonna just hit mute on you, and then just unmute yourself whenever you're back. Your video is frozen and your audio is not coming through. But all right, so Julia and Mike, what's your analysis of this overall session here with the 120s?
So, for me, this was definitely the session I was most looking forward to. But like we were saying when we were going over this, like lift by lift through squat bench, where for it to be the session, like the session where everyone's battling for gold, people had to all make their lifts, because especially as we get to the heavier weight classes where people are taking potentially 15 to 20 kilo jumps, you miss one lift on squat, you miss a 20 kilo jump, or you miss your opener and have to retake it, right? That's 15 to 20 kilos on your total. And if the other lifters now don't miss their lifts, it's almost impossible to make that up. You're not missing like a 5 kilo jump from your second to third squat in like a lower weight class. Here, 20 kilos, it's very, if you're trying to make up 20 kilos from lifters who are either stronger or like same strength region as you, it's going to be almost impossible. So it comes down to executing, and at one missed lift, and it basically ends of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, it was super close. I mean, in the end, actually, Tristan ended up running away with this. Ends up winning by, what is it, 23, 20, 27 kilos, something like that. That's a pretty big win.
That
But go
number's
ahead,
a
Mike.
little skewed because Mike pulled for the world record and took a big jump there. But like, if you watch his second squat, right, or his third squat, which was really his second squat, like he had more there, right? Obviously, he had more. He was opening with 300. It wasn't opening at 300 to end at 317. So I don't know what exactly the plan. Like, I don't know if he was planning on going, let's say 300, 317, 330. I don't know exactly, but like, let's just say like if the third attempt was supposed to be like in the 327, 330 range, if he has 10 to 12 kilos more on squat, then all of his other attempts change, right? Now on deadlift, he doesn't need to load 386. He can load, I mean, obviously other things change for other people also, but the point is like he'd be in a region where he's pulling. I mean, he didn't even attempt to pull for the win because it was out of reach. But if he makes 3 squats and makes three benches, which he didn't make 3 squats or 3 benches, now he can pull, let's say 375 for the win, maybe. And 375, that's a reasonable deadlift. That's something that might be in the tank. So missing lifts at that level when you're taking that big jumps and it's that close, basically kills it.
I do want to say one thing real quick too, because after that, like as you said, there wasn't really a battle for first place. There was a battle for the podium though, and yes, it got pretty crazy at the end.
It did.
With those 3 lifters being quite close to each other. I think the lifter from Belize was only 5 kilos behind Bryce or something like that.
He ended up losing by 5 kilos, Kalen, and he went 3 for 3 on deadlifts, and Bryce missed his third. So there was some drama there for sure.
Yeah,
go ahead. And Tristan, was there anything else you wanted to add on that? Are you back?
Yeah, I come back. I'm hearing you all pretty well. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, there's it looks like a 3-second delay, but we got you. Go ahead. Just tell us what you were thinking there on the final deadlifts.
Yeah. So I was gonna kind of out, like I said, I was stubborn, got myself into a bad position. And this is where I had been told for the attempt. I was talking with Rodney as far as like what we want for a third, that the other 2 guys probably out of reach and secure gold after the second. And I knew I was going to have to load up 390, which would be for him. And even though spend so much time staying, knowing I have to make every single attempt, that moment where it came off the ground and I was in a position, there's that choice of, do I fight this? Slightly bad position and possibly finish it? Because looking back, I can post this would be a train as 350, 770, and it was like relatively smooth. And it was one of those things, maybe I could have fought for lift, maybe I couldn't have. But the decision in my head was, oh, there's not a time on this. Let's not injure myself or potentially injure something for nationals. And that's just why I let it go so quickly. Because as soon as I recognized, oh, I'm not in a good spot, like, got it and called it. Now, that could come back to bite me. I huge and 12 close because I gave up a lift thinking I had won. That's a failure on my part. All stemming from lack of patience in getting set for the lift. But, I just wanted to share that thought process. That's kind of what I found come up to me like, it seemed to move off the ground fast. Why'd you stop on it? That was exactly why I was like, let's wrap. Let's not injure anything. Let's live the lift another day, and then in nationals I'll get revenge on that, I'm sure.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for taking us through that. You were cutting up. Your audio is kind of cutting out quite a bit there, but I think everyone could kind of could understand what you were saying. I know I was at least able to understand that basically, instead of continuing to yank on that third deadlift and possibly risking injury, even though it was moving smooth, you set it back down. You did the wise and mature thing, especially at that point in the game. You had pretty much already known in your head that you've got the W wrapped up here, that you're going to win this. So really no point in risking injury. Steve Crane in the chat is asking a good question. When you have that win well in hand, and I mean, of course, you don't, you're always a little bit leery with these big deadlifters, right? But you pretty much knew you had the win in hand. You knew Mike T was going to have to pull beyond a world record in order to win, and it was probably unlikely. He's asking, is there a slight letdown in focus or intensity on the last pull?
Yeah, you have to bring it back to personal reasons, and I think this is fairly often with mental exercise. A lot of times, Mike, you were talking about winner, you like to eat while we're doing it. But when the competition is out of it, then you have to rely on other motivations. And for me, that's enjoying the moment. Like, realize, hey, I'm here in an island in the middle of the how many people to see that? And then lastly, just like my own personal PRs and things like that, which to me just as valuable as the championships and the winning, and that plays a balance for motivation.
All right, I think I got that. Michael, did you get that?
Yeah, the one thing I was going to ask is, right, so you kind of had it locked up coming to the last pull. So that last pull, how did you decide the number? Meaning, was it just a matter of like hitting a certain PR or whatever? Because like I was actually looking, and I noticed that last pull would have put you at 925.5, which would have came second at Worlds. I'm wondering if that number, if like the number had any like significance, or if it was just like that's what I thought it's in the tank, or what was like the reasoning behind that number?
Yeah, two things. You nailed the first one. It would have been the second place total at Worlds, so personal. I wouldn't have won anything for that, but I wanted to get to say that. And two, it was the next increment of a PR lift. I hit 350 nationals in February, so 352.5 was the step up.
Man, that is amazing. So you're going for PRs on all three lifts, obviously PR total, international platform, going against three monsters with all the pressure in the world on your back. Just absolutely, you had a fantastic day. I mean, you balled out. And I mean, like you said, that you might have been able to hit that 352 if it wasn't for the extenuating circumstance. And you could have been, bragging about, hey, I would have finished second at World. So maybe next year, the U.S. national team needs to bring me out there so I can show off on the biggest platform in the world. That's really big. We got another. Stephen Crane was just saying in the chat that the energy in the room was incredible that night. And as we're watching these videos of yours in squad and in some of these, the person coming up after you was Ray Williams, right? Like, so I remember this because, I would be filming you and then I would come into the warm-up room and there's Susie and Ray right there, and they're about to come out and do their thing. So talk a little bit just about the atmosphere and what it was like, kind of, because now 2 comps in a row, you've been on the same platform with a couple of bosses in your own weight class within the 120s and legendary Mike T. And then in addition to that, you also in nationals were in the same flight as Ray Williams again. So 2 times. How does it feel being out there, and how's the crowd whenever Ray Williams is in the room?
Oh man, yeah. Was fantastic. It seems to few competition. I've been to North America.
1 second, man. You're cutting out.
2019 agree. And
Give us 1 second here. Tristan, try turning off your video so we'll just have audio from you. And maybe that'll help clean up the audio. There you go. Okay. Can you hear? Go ahead and say that again.
Yeah,
I think you said it was fantastic atmosphere. Go ahead and elaborate.
Yeah, no, I've been to North American Championships in the past. International meets in general tend to be sometimes quiet. And I think part of that is, you get groups of nations who are rooting for their own lifter, rightfully so. And it can be just kind of just a quiet experience. But this time it was not quiet at all. It was a heck of a crowd. And I really appreciated all of the energy, especially because I tend to feed off of that energy. I really enjoy it. So, kind of going to the other side of your point, I lived alongside the likes of Shear, Ray Williams, Bryce Krupek, all of those guys who have established themselves in the sport and being so dominant. It's a real experience, and there's moments where you catch yourself thinking like, I'm really here. Do I belong in a situation? It's cool. I got myself to the point where like, okay, I belong here, but it's never any less awe-inspiring. That's for sure.
Great. And the last question, and now we'll let you go because we've got Alex Sydor in the room, who's going to come in and join us and start talking about junior nationals or junior worlds. So we'll have to let you go, Tristan, in just a second. But the last question I wanted to ask was just about your motivation on the day, like how you were hyping yourself up, because man, I can't wait to pull the footage and show people, because Lane posted his. And everyone thinks Lane is crazy. Like he screams and yells and comes running out and all this kind of stuff. And Lane was messaging me in the DMs and he's like, man, I'm a total psychopath. When I watch back these videos, I look like a total psychopath. And I replied to him, I'm like, you look mild compared to Tristan though, man. Like Tristan really goes crazy. So just tell us how you tap into that and what you're thinking about whenever you're going into that frenzy like you do.
Yeah, I would like to call it controlled chaos, so like you have to stay in this area where I'm still focused enough to execute on lifts and not make dumb mistakes on the day, but it's also like caffeine. Go into a little bit of small science here, but like caffeine essentially brings adrenaline into your system, and that's why caffeine is so effective, right? It gives you energy from the adrenaline. My thought process is, if I can do that to myself and bring more adrenaline into my system without having to take even more caffeine or anything like that, then theoretically that should elicit a good strength response. So slowly over the years, I've myself to be more outward and getting myself up. Now, Natalie, my girlfriend, kind of brought it up to me the other day because she always laughs. She's like, I can hear you in the back talking to yourself. Like, what are you doing back there? And part of it, and she brought it up, she's like, do you think this distracts your opponents? And I was like, well, I guess I never really thought about it. I know Mike, as an example, Mike and I are complete opposites. He'll sit in the corner and kind of be in his zone until he comes out and he'll lift, whereas I'm pacing around. I don't think I sit down the entire meet. But part of it is a protective response. So years back in Bruce at my first Worlds, I was very much like kind of internal, like Mike, and there was another lifter there who was very outward. He was like dancing, and I found that distracting to me. And I was like, what's this guy doing? And it kind of brought me out of my zone a little bit. So in order to prevent myself from doing that, I just flip it. And now I'm the one who's always doing something crazy. And that way, if someone else is pacing around or dancing, I'm so focused on what I'm doing that I can't get distracted anymore. It's like a defense mechanism to do that. And really to display what I'm thinking about, any little thing, like a little slight that I may have encountered over the years. This sounds cliche and silly, but like I asked her mom once and she said no. That makes me a little irritated. Or if anyone told me that they don't think I can do something, I'm like, okay, that's a little motivation that I bring in for the day of the meet. And it all just kind of conglomerates on me, and I'll doing all that.
Well, I gotta say, you're just one of my favorite lifters. Like there was a time. Okay, so I'll just give a little color to this because you're and we'll show the videos. I'm definitely gonna work on your video like tonight, tomorrow morning, and post it because you're so different. And you're saying to yourself, you're like breathing really heavy, and you're like, winners don't miss, and you're like, and you're saying all kinds of stuff like this to yourself, and then someone will come and like tap you on the shoulder and be like, oh, excuse me, like, are these your gummy bears or whatever? And you'll pull your head and be like, oh yeah, go ahead. You're like so polite and gentle. I remember you were standing in the back of the hallway and someone came up to you and maybe they asked you for a selfie, or I forget what it was exactly, but you were like pacing around, like grunting and growling and like saying these things to yourself. And then maybe it was Rodney like tapped you on the shoulder and you're like, oh yeah, what's up? What do you need? Like so polite and nice. Like, and that's just like you are now on the podcast and as a teacher, as a high school teacher and everything. Like, you're such a big teddy bear that everyone loves. You're so soft spoken and like a gentle giant, but then it's like on game day when it's time to lift, you become a crazy man. So I would love to hear more. You should talk about this on your own YouTube channel a little bit, because I'm sure you get a lot of questions about this. And since you're cutting out a lot and we got to have Alex come in, we're going to have to, switch gears here and bring in Alex. But I would love it if you made a YouTube video where you talk about it and what your girlfriend thinks about it and stuff like this, and like other people that have just heard it. And it was funny. So you were mentioning about someone asked a question. Was it, I don't know if it was Julia or Mike, that was like, is it distracting for other people? Mike Garazzo is in the chat, and he's the one that has gone against Lane now 2 times. And Lane is very similar in his amount of hype, and he says it's definitely distracting. So for sure. So and lifted on a prayer, I believe that's Amy Hutchison, is saying, don't forget about me, LOL.
No.
Explain yourself there, Amy. What do you mean by that?
Amy, it's
this is Michelle Carlasio. Yes. So Michelle gets the fan of the NAPF award by far. She came to the most sessions. She screamed the loudest. She did everything. But yeah, Michael Garazzo is in the chat here, and he's saying it's definitely distracting. And I definitely remember him. Yeah, Michelle Carlasio is in here, and Amy Hutchison is in here. So we got a lot of people in the chat popping in here. But anyway, go ahead, Tristan. Final thoughts on that?
Yeah, on like the getting distracted,
or just before we let you go.
That part?
Or just before we let you go.
Yeah. I just think, to wrap up that part as far as the meet day energy, that's part of executing on meet day. And I'll certainly, I'll apologize if I distract anyone.
No, don't apologize.
Part of the condition, if those things come up, and I'm sure, right? Yeah. So if I think Michael understands and it's kind of part of it, but they're both professionals at what they do, and I fully would expect that they got in spite of whatever else is going around them. So, we all do it a little bit, and that's what makes it fun. As far as I'll try and throw together some YouTube videos on that content. Keep an eye out. I'm looking to do a long recap video as well on the trip. So if anyone wants to check out the channel, it's Rod's Strength Training. So shameless plug wherever that is.
For sure.
And I
We'll
appreciate you all having me on. It's always a blast.
Yeah, man, it's great. You're one of the great ambassadors for the sport. It's always a pleasure seeing you lift. Being able to be up close and personal with you and talk to you in between disciplines and things like that is a real honor for me. I don't take it lightly, and definitely going to get you a ton of footage for that. So thank you, man. We're going to go ahead and sign you off here because like, as I mentioned, you're cutting out, but we were able to get and understand everything that you said. But definitely everyone go follow him on Instagram. Post the links in your story to your YouTube videos that you're putting out. He's putting out a ton of content. His YouTube is blowing up. So go subscribe to his YouTube for sure. And with that, Tristan, it was great talking to you again, as always. We'll catch you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you all. Next time.
Good night. Okay, Tristan, that was awesome. Just to and also I've allowed Alex to enter the room or whatever it's called on here. If he's in here, there he is. All right, he's in here. So let's keep talking about NAPF for a minute because it's such a big deal. We don't want to wrap it up, but I don't want to keep you just waiting in the waiting room there, Alex, because you can join in on these kind of conversations and stuff as well. You definitely been in there and in the trenches, just like we all have. And you probably got to see. Did you see Tristan Nazelrod lift in Austin?
Yeah, I did actually. Yes, and I saw that I remember the situation that happened with him with the drug testing. He got pulled out of drug testing. He got pulled out mid-meet with that whole thing.
Yeah, to do drug testing in the middle. Yeah, but so you can kind of see his persona in the warm-up room, especially right when he's about to come out to lift, he gets so fired up. But Mike Garazzo is in the chat, and he won the 93 M1s, a heated battle with him and Lane. It was absolutely epic. Gabriel Garcia was already also in there threatening from Mexico. And he was saying it's definitely distracting whenever your opponent is kind of in Lane's own words, going psychotic before they come out to lift. And Michael, we'll have you on a podcast I mentioned before. After I get back from Romania, we're going to do an long extended interview with you. But I remember very clearly, there was a ton of hype for all these sessions. The crowd was absolutely electric. JW Wrench, I don't know who that is, but you're in the chat saying people were standing on the chairs and waving flags and filming and stuff like this. And so the crowd was definitely electric. And I remember Susie Gary, who was handling Michael, just stopping him after Lane had kind of left the little area, the little staging area, and just being like, don't let all the hype and excitement get to you. Just stay calm, stay cool, breathe. She was telling him breathe, stuff like this. And obviously he handled his business, went out and hit that last pull, and it was just, absolutely awesome. The crowd went nuts and everything like that. But yeah, it's gotta be different. He's saying in the chat, she also shoved me so I couldn't look at his lift. Oh, so Michael was out there probably trying to get a sneak peek, because the way the staging area was set up was basically, if you were standing in the staging area, you're up next, you would be facing straight to the platform and you would have a look. So yeah. Susie doing a good job there of trying to keep Michael out of his head and everything like that. Remember those stories, Mike. We're going to get you on. But Alex, did you watch any of the North American Championships, or did you kind of follow the coverage of it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I followed basically all of it. I mean, from the juniors to masters to the Open, I followed all of it.
So what were some of the highlights for you that you saw?
Definitely the three-way battle, obviously, with Tristan, Mike, and Bryce, because actually I saw Bryce around 2 or 3 weeks ago in Canada when it was me, Carolyn, Delaney, and Gavin training at Bryce's gym, and he let us train there. And it was awesome meeting him in person. I've been looking up to him for a while, seeing his YouTube videos. I mean, he's been in the game for a decade now, and he's posted a lot of informative content on YouTube. It was cool meeting him. Has a nice gym in there, and yeah, I was watching that. Watching Susie because she's been a big part of my powerlifting recently, for coaching at juniors and just, being a motivation for me. So I was watching her. I was watching some juniors. I was watching like the 66 to 83 juniors. And then the open, 83 to like 120 plus, watching Ray get back on the platform since February. I mean, yeah, it was basically try to watch as much as possible.
That's great, man. You're a student of the game. I know you're a big nerd for the sport. So that's why I want to have you on here to talk about Junior Worlds upcoming. I did want to just run through a couple more things about NAPF before we move on. And Julia, this is where I'm going to read through some of the best lifters from the Team USA. And then if you want to give your summary too from some of the best performances that you saw, and then we'll get into Junior Worlds and Sub Junior Worlds. But on the US team, we won 7 best lifter awards. And so I just want to mention those real quick. Keegan Bucci won the men's classic sub junior best lifter. Philip Trong, the Trongster, won men's classic junior best lifter. Gail Williams, the legend, won women's classic M4's best lifter. John LaFlamme, we knew he was going to handle business and win the men's classic M4's. And then on the equip side, the women's equip sub junior, Isabel Oliveras was the best lifter. Men's equip sub junior, Bo Peralou was the best lifter. Men's equip junior, Kyle Ullman was the best lifter. And then that's it for us as far as Team USA. I do want to shout out Sammy DePass and Kafui Hudson-Yami. They won the women and the men's classic open divisions, the best lifters. And on the equip side, there was an absolute legend from Canada. Simone Lai won the equipped open, and Carlos Campos Murillo, affectionately known as Manolo, from Costa Rica, he won on the men's equipped side as well, men's equipped open. So just shout out some of the best lifters there. Obviously, if you're winning best lifter awards, you had some of the best performances of the whole competition. As I mentioned before, the Trongster had a huge performance with the 100 good lifts, 100 good lift points, 100.7 good lift points in the classic juniors. He had himself a hell of a day. And it was a great performance. Anyone else that you guys want to mention? Go ahead, Julia, with your recap.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I wanted to say, obviously very impressed with the junior lifters, especially Phil Trong and Keegan Bucci, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
He swept the golds, and he wasn't unopposed or anything. He just swept the golds.
Yeah.
Which is a huge accomplishment. But we were anticipating the battle in the 120s, and we were anticipating the battle in the 76s. And to a certain extent, we were anticipating this battle between Lane and Michael in the 93s. But really, I think, people are like, oh, well, people don't pay attention to masters. Well, they're paying attention now, because I think, to me, that was probably the most compelling battle, the way it played out of the entire meet. They both went 9 for 9. It really came down to who was stronger on the day, and that's everything you want to see. So I thought that was great. It's great for masters lifting. It's great for NAPF. I mean, King of the Lifts is talking about this now. And so I thought that was really awesome. And then Luella Bowden, I mean, she squatted 584 high bar.
Yeah.
I just, people say, there's these records that'll never be broken. These so-and-so is the greatest of all time. We can never see anyone topping that. And people come along, like, these records are going to fall. We're just seeing the beginning of this. I mean, that was incredible. And it didn't really look as difficult as I thought it would. So I think, that's also a great segue into Junior Worlds, because we have not one, but 2 really strong sub-junior females in the 84 plus class, which is something that, I personally love to see. you know, when the battles are in those heavyweight classes, I think those are the funnest battles to watch.
For sure. We don't want to move on to junior worlds just yet, but because I do want to mention like Dalton LeCaux, he balled out in the 59s. Like he had a big total. He put on a show for the people. The crowd was going nuts for his deadlifts. He was in the same session with Jonathan Garcia, who squatted a world record, an open world record, which was I think it was his in the past. And he got the crowd super fired up. He's like, do you want to see it? And then he came out and did it. And afterwards he was like, yes, he was like screaming and stuff. It was so hyped up. And, so I want to get Mike Gold's take on what you thought about Jonathan Garcia's performance.
Well, I mean, obviously his performance was phenomenal. He squatted the world record. I think he should have pulled for the total world record. I think it was there. In general, the only thing, deadlift is his worst lift. And a big part of that is grip. Like when he gets heavy, he very often like misses on grip. But the way his deadlifts moved, it looked like, I think would have been 8 kilos needed more for the world record. It looked like it was there. And I don't know if there's a specific purpose in 703. I mean, it's a total PR. It's breaking to 700s. It's nice. But I think that breaking the world record would have given him consideration for a Sheffield spot. It would have broken the world record. It would have obviously totaled more than the winner at Worlds did. And there was zero on the men's side. There were no male lifters at Worlds that broke the world record and didn't win. So like on the female side there were, but on the male side, the highest second place finisher was at like 98% of the world record. So I think breaking the world record would at least given him some consideration. So I personally would have done that, but I mean, it was phenomenal. He missed his third bench. If he hit his third bench,
he went up 8. He went up 8 kilos and went from 170 to 178, which must have been a North American record or something.
So that would have given him the world record total with his deadlift. So I assume the plan was to squat what he did squat, to bench what his third bench was, and to pull what he did. Like I assume those were all the numbers planned to break the world record. And then I guess when he missed the third bench, I guess they decided not to push the deadlift. But yeah, I mean, it was very strong performance. It's going to be crazy because even so, he's going to have to come back next year and fight in a monster 66 battle again. So
who are you expecting to be in that battle besides Brian Lee? Is there anyone else that should be on our radar?
Other people who, I don't know, in the past we've been told not to say names of people who haven't switched over yet, but there's likely going to be at least one more person who ends up. Plus also there's still Rodrigo. I know he didn't do as well this past year, but like he's always there. A very strong lifter and he's still a threat.
He's training. He posts his training like every day, man. He's training his ass off always. Like he can put
actually, you know what I should mention? I should bridge the gap between this and what we're about to talk about. But coming up from the juniors next year, Kyle will be trying to make the open team. And
Kyle Nowak, we're talking about here.
And if he totals what I think he's capable, I think he's capable of totaling at Junior Worlds this year. He'll be really damn close, like already.
Okay, and where does this 703 would have finished at Worlds? Would that have been second place?
Second, yeah.
Hannah win with 705?
It would have been 2 kilos off.
Yeah, so damn, if he just had 2.5 kilos on bench instead of missing that jump for 8 kilos, he could have had the best total as a 66 this year. I mean, on an international competition, made a good case for Sheffield. All right, any other thoughts, Alex or Julia, about Jonathan Garcia and his performance? I definitely wanted to shout him out.
Yeah, I mean, he had an absolutely great performance, and it's good that he's fixed the things that he had at the last meet, where like depth was probably an issue and stuff like that. It's good that he fixed it at NAPFs, and especially to even a higher standard at an international competition. And I'm really happy where NAPFs is going because it's really following, like the other regions like Euros, like the Oceania. I'm really liking where NAPFs is going. More competitive, and there's building more traction about it. And I think it's like the lifters that don't make worlds still should do NAPFs, because it could be like your statement of what I would have done at worlds, or, you know, something similar to that. So I really like where we're going with NAPFs, and, you know, what Powerlifting America is doing for that. And yeah, he had a great performance. Lane had a great performance, and then Mike had a great, like, you know, pulling for the win is great. It was awesome to see that, watching that. I think it did glitch out on the phone. I was watching it, and then the last pull cut out, which was annoying. On the live stream, on the live stream. But then I saw Mike win. I was like, wow, it was a really good battle. And that's what it's all about. It's all about the good battles. It's all about going 9 for 9. It's all about just the hype that builds around it, and just like the characters that are in powerlifting, you know, that lift at the highest standard.
You hit a great point. Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, I mean, just to go off of that a little bit, I think, you know, maybe we haven't all listened to the podcast that just dropped on King of the Lifts with Brandon Petrie, but he said, you know, we want to bring legitimacy to NAPF, and he suggested a few things that would do it. And I think people getting close to being considered for the Sheffield, for Sheffield, based on their totals that they total at NAPF is going to be a big deal. And, you know, he got close. Again, you know, I think Mike is right that I don't think that this is going to really put him in the running for it, but it's starting to be a meet that people actually look at and they have to watch, not just because it's entertaining to see, you know, the lifters that are there, but because there's competitive lifters that people have to watch out for on the world stage.
We talked about last year how some lifters like Carlina and Leah qualified not out of worlds, right? They qualified out of other meets. And here we had a situation where definitely Jonathan Garcia, maybe if he totals 3-4 kilos more, maybe 7 kilos more, would be hard to argue that he wouldn't at least get a look at going to Sheffield from this if there were more wildcard spots available. I know there's only one wildcard spot open at this time. Also, Tristan, same thing, had a little chip on his shoulder 2 years in a row, not getting to go to the World Championships, but gets to now come here and ball out and put out a signature performance here. You know, also we just saw world records across the board. So whenever, like I mentioned before, Amy Hutchison had posted earlier today that there was 15 world records. We mentioned a few of them here, but I know that I believe Melissa Copeland, did she hit a bench world record? She hit a world record. I know Lillian Jackson. No, maybe it was Lily hit a bench world record, and Melissa might have hit a squat world record. Is that right? And then I know Carlos Lewis in the Masters also hit a squat world record. I know John LaFlamme hit a squat world record. So, I mean, there's world records falling all over the place. You don't really get an opportunity to do that. So, one of the junior lifters was mentioning to me after the fact that it was really cool that they got to pull for a world record, and two of them in fact tried to pull for world records. I'm going to look up the names here. It was Nabil Rafai and Keegan Bucci. They both pulled for world records, and Nabil was I talked with him for a while afterwards, and he was just saying, you know, it's such an honor to be able to go out and try to do something that no one in the world has ever done before. And whether it's at NAPF or it's at the World Championships or it's at one of these other international meets where you can break and set world records, that's a really cool thing to, like, very few people can say that they tried to break an official world record, you know, on a platform with IPF refs, international refs, and stuff like that. So it's a very cool thing. It was a very cool competition. One last point I wanted to hit on was just that we were talking about when Tristan was kind of mentioning that in previous international competition, because Tristan, if you go back and look at his Open Powerlifting, he's been to a ton of international competitions, like I think like 6 or 7. And he said oftentimes it's super quiet and the teams are and the people in the crowd are just cheering on their team. And we kind of saw that a little bit in Malta, right, Mike, where like when Team France would come out, they had a big contingency in the crowd. And some of the other squads, New Zealand had like a pretty big contingency in the crowd when they would walk out. And the US, we don't really have fans that really travel. It's just sort of like the lifters that are there or the friends and family of the people that are traveling with the lifters that are in the crowd. And it's usually a pretty small contingency because it's far usually for us to travel to some of these international competitions. I mean, and it's expensive.
New Zealand and Australia are further, and they both had
crowd presence.
Yeah, but
So.
and so maybe it's also not just maybe they didn't really have fans, but it's just that their lifters stick around too. Like, you know, some of our lifters just bounce, they lift and then they bounce. And whereas in other countries, like Leah was there screaming for everyone, like Panna was there screaming the days before for the 47s and 52s, where we don't get that quite as much. But at the NAPF, everyone is screaming for everyone. Like it's truly a friendship cup. It's truly a lot of camaraderie where everyone wanted to see Ray ball. Everyone was screaming for Tristan. I think probably the loudest the crowd might have ever got the entire time was during Luella's third squat. Like people were absolutely going nuts for her. And that was a huge squat for sure. So that's one thing that separates NAPF. It's a way more of a family. Like we feel like we're the North American family and we all want everyone to succeed. And of course we want to win, but we're all cheering for each other in all the other weight classes and things like that. And a lot of the other countries, again, I mean, besides Michelle Carlasio and Dr. Michael Harris, they were there for quite also John LaFlamme and Carlos Lewis. First of all, they're boys, which is crazy. Like they roomed together. They couldn't be more different. Like they're just like so much different from each other. Carlos is like every other word is an F-bomb. And then John LaFlamme is like the nicest sweetheart from Maine. That's like so polite and soft spoken, but they were hanging out together the whole time, like going to dinner and stuff. But they also, those four people, they came to damn near every session. Lily Jackson, I saw her in the crowd a lot. Melissa Copeland was in the crowd a lot, and just cheering on everyone. So it's a little bit different too, because it's a vacation destination. So people tend to stay the whole time as opposed to just lift and bounce as well. So really cool. Last thing I want to talk about, and this will be our transition. If anyone else wants to add anything onto these topics, but I don't want to have Mike Gold talk about Luella a little bit. But before you get into that, Julia or Alex, you guys have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, Carlos Lewis is so fun. I talked to him for a while. Yeah, I mean, it's cool because you get to know these people really well. I feel like I've made some really good friends that in a way that really doesn't happen at nationals, even at you know, like big mega nats from like a few years ago. It's not the same because, you know, and maybe it's because it was in like a small island, you know, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's really cool to see all these great lifters and like get to know them and really see their personalities. That was a really cool experience.
For sure. It's definitely different. Some of the Central American countries like Belize, Trinidad and Tobago. So Trinidad and Tobago, that's big news. They were back for the first time in the IPF. They're now back in the good graces of the IPF. Maybe that's a path for Rondell Hunt. They have this lifter named Joseph that put on an absolute show. If you watch the live stream, he like looks up at the bench camera, he gives a thumbs up as he sits down.
I did see that. Yeah.
He's a showman, baby. And he came in. We talked to him. He's man, the future is bright for Trinidad and Tobago. They had some other good lifters in there. They had their coach was handling business. But Belize goes crazy as well. So, and yeah, Cayman Islands, obviously, for any time their lifters were in the room, they would go crazy too. So, yeah, any other thoughts? Alex, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there in person. I wish I was because it seemed like a really good atmosphere and, you know, powerlifting destination and then obviously the vacationing after. But no, it looked really awesome from just like the live stream perspective and the fans there and like a lot of good energy in the room. And that's just like what powerlifting needs, and especially after like COVID, you know, people were probably unmotivated to come back to work, come back to, you know, lifting. Some people just couldn't lift for a full year, full 9 months, whatever it was. You know, we just want to bring energy back into powerlifting, and we want to bring storylines back in. We want to just blow the sport up. You know, we are still a very small sport, and we just want to make the sport as big as possible. And it's what it's going to take. It's going to take showmen. It's going to take promoting the sport. It's going to take doing things that we've never done before in the sport. And that's also just supporting, getting the fans involved more, getting, you know, everyone that comes to the meets. Like I think it's a great thing to, you know, you compete and then stay after for like the next 2 to 3 days to watch the other competitors compete and, you know, cheer them on because, you know, you always want to be there for them and for your team, especially for, you know, United States, Belize, Cayman Islands, like cheer your fellow teammates on. But yeah, it seemed like a great time there at the NAPFs.
For sure, man. We're getting a lot of people in the chat have been mentioning this, and Jordan just mentioned it. You know, these regional championships. The atmosphere is just simply unmatched. He's been at a lot of the equipped nationals and can speak on the equipped side, or equipped worlds, and can speak on the equipped side of things. All right, Mike Gold, take us home, baby. Let's talk about Luella. Tell us about what she did and her amazing performance, and we'll transition over to Junior Worlds, which I think we're just like a week and a few days out from the start of the Junior World Championship, Junior and Sub Junior World Championship. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so before we get to Junior Worlds, I guess we'll discuss something that bridges NAPF and Junior Worlds. So Luella competed, and she's competing again in 2 weeks, so quick turnaround. But she squatted 265, which she broke Leanne Hewitt's 262.5 sub-junior squat world record. She benched, I believe, 117, and she deadlifted 200, missed in our second, retook on our third. So she put up a huge performance. Not the sub junior. Was it the sub junior total world record? I'm not sure what that is.
I'll take a look while you're talking here.
I think
it might be it's the
Mahalia. Yeah.
Mahalia.
Right. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's her. So I don't think she took that world record, but she took the squat and she had a huge total. So definitely impressive. I'm definitely curious to see how that affects her performance in 2 weeks, because in general, going RP 10 and then competing in 2 weeks later is difficult, especially when you're like a bigger lifter and it's more absolute weight. So I guess it'll be interesting to see how she could perform then. But I think it's even better than I initially probably expected. Like, she hit a massive squat PR. Like, I think she hit, what was it? It was like 230 in Austin, something like that. I don't know exactly.
I don't have it pulled up.
It was something like that. Something like a 35 kilo squat PR in 5 months, which is insane. That's like beginner, like new begins numbers. Like, hitting a 35 kilo squat PR in 5 months is absolute insanity. So
she broke the squat world record by 2.5 kilos. You're right. That was 262.5. So you put up a 265. Interesting. She didn't take a chip. I guess it's not really necessary because she wasn't really going against anyone, but it's always smart to take a chip. And then the total, I'm just pulling this up, is Leanne Hewitt.
She's better off not taking a chip.
615. Oh, why? So she can use it in
she
Romania.
didn't use a chip. Now she'll have a lighter chip.
So 615.5 is the total from Leanne Hewitt in the 84 plus sub juniors.
Okay, so she's still like 32 kilos behind that.
Yeah. So, but still amazing performance. And like I said, and on the squat, you could see that she, on the walkout, she had a little wobble. Like, she almost like rolled an ankle or something. Like she had a little misstep. And like I said, the crowd was like going absolutely crazy. So I think it was good. Like, she had the right amount of adversity where I don't think it was anything that's going to mentally mess her up going into Romania. There wasn't anything like she failed a lifts on strength that she thought that she could hit or anything like this, where it's going to get in her head. She faced that adversity on the walkout of her world record squat. She faced adversity on her second deadlift and then came back and got it. And she was able to lock out. I think the biggest question with her is her lockout on deadlift for sure. And she was
I think the biggest question, I give her a lot of credit, is her squats looked high in training and she got all 3 squats. So
yeah,
she gets a lot of credit. She did her first international competition and she was able to adjust and hit what the refs all said were good. So that's definitely good. She's already has a big squat. Now that she has confidence on the platform, like I think she's going to be joining the 600-pound squat club. Like, probably not in Romania. I don't see it. I think she really went like all out in terms of squat, but I assume next year, definitely. So we'll have another one.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So let's transition then into the world championship. So she had go ahead, Julia, go ahead.
Yeah. So I actually talked to her coach for a little bit after the fact. And he said that they opened pretty conservatively on deadlift, and he thinks she has more in the tank. I guess they just didn't have baby powder back there, or she didn't know to grab it or something. And so that was part of what happened. So that was like purely a mishap. So yeah, I mean, look out for that. There's definitely a little bit more in the tank there. They intentionally opened extremely light, and yeah, that minor mistake. They didn't even want to take 200, I believe. They didn't even want to take that originally, but decided to, just because how could you not in that atmosphere. But I think that will be amended as well, so we should be able to see a little bit more on her deadlift as well.
For sure. I mean, that's another thing. In terms of the warm-up room, the facilities at the NAPF this year in the Cayman Islands, it's definitely not up to par with what you're going to see at the World Championships. Like, Mike, it wasn't like a bunch of Alekos and like 6 Aleko racks and everything like it was in Malta, for sure. It was like different kinds of racks, different bench pads. There was one Aleko back there, different kind of bars and stuff like this.
The bars weren't even Alico.
No.
Did they at least have like 20 kg Ohio bars, or were you like
no, there were weird looking bars, bro. They had a weird tip on the end of them. I don't even know what they were.
That's terrible. You're warming up on like some commercial gym bar. One
of them didn't have the right knurling either, like the markings. I remember Susie telling someone when she's pulling, like basically like someone was pulling a last warm up on deadlift, and she's like, make sure that you put your hands where you normally put them because these markings are a little off.
It sounds like the ghetto bar in the warm up room in Turkey.
Come on, don't be calling the Cayman Islands ghetto over here, man.
No. In Turkey, they had like this one rack bar that anyone could use, and it was like, I don't even know what.
Here's the thing. This is the first time I hear that she didn't have baby powder. That's really on your coach to bring baby powder. Like chalk and baby powder, you got to bring your own. There were some complaints that there wasn't enough chalk sometimes. And I'm like, bro, you saw Team Canada, they had their own Tupperware with chalk that they were bringing out for their team and everything like that. Like you gotta come prepared with baby powder and chalk. And so that's on us. If anything, that's not, or on her coach, that's not on Luella, and that's not on the Cayman Islands squad that hosted this meet either. Overall though, I heard no complaints. Like, in the US, you'll hear complaints about like the smallest of things in the warm-up room. If you don't have this or you don't have that. Here, nobody complained for a single thing. I was in the warm-up room a ton, not a single complaint. And I'm telling you, I was looking at some of those bench pads were like ER racks. And I was just like, whoa, those bench pads do not look great, but no one was complaining, and people were hitting bench world records and stuff. So, it's a sign that, you have to overcome adversity. Like you're saying last year in Turkey, stuff was maybe not up to par. That's what's going to be sometimes. It's not going to be like open worlds where you're going to have like all Aleko, everything in the warm-up room. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. I don't even remember what racks it was last year in Turkey. I think there was like a mix of variety. Like, I don't even know if there was Lico. Maybe there was like a few, but like, yeah, that's the biggest thing in powerlifting. And I've come to realize that because I think a few years ago, I was like super specific on what I train on, and I am now, but just like so nitpicky and just like, you can't be like that. You obviously want the best equipment possible, but you just never know what's going to happen when you get there. You never know how everything's going to go. It's actually funny because me and Carolyn, we were just in Florida, and we actually saw a fellow competitor. We went to a random gym in Florida, and we saw a fellow sub-junior competitor, the 74, who's going to Romania. And he was asking us questions because, as we went to Turkey last year. And there's a lot of things. Yes, Nick Gaines, yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of things that people don't know. And I think I can give some advice like what to expect. But the things we told him, because he was like, what do I expect when I go to Romania? Or I guess international country, because it definitely depends from country to country. And each one's gonna be different. You're always gonna have a different experience. The things that we try to staple were food and water, like food and then water when we got there. But we have 2 suitcases. One suitcase is gonna be for clothes, and then one's for food and water and everything. We pack all the food. So we have Bryce, we have, all the candy, all the Pedialyte, the drinks, the Gatorade, the soy sauce, every single carb that we could have. Every food is packed up into the meat because you never know what you're going to get there when you expect. They obviously have food when you get there. I think you pay like $30 bucks a day for the food. They have like a little dinner. You just never know. People get sick. I got food poisoning at Open Nationals and it just, shit happens. So always come prepared as you're going to a different country. Come with what you need. So I would say just pack as much food as you can. And then the next thing is definitely get adjusted to the time. Whatever time you compete at, just get adjusted to it, because last year was kind of rough for me because we stayed on US time, and that's just what made most sense for the meet. It didn't make sense for me to adjust because it was just so close when we got there. This time I'm getting there almost a week in advance to the meet. So we're going to fully adjust to Romanian time, start waking up at 7 to 8 o'clock every single morning, and then go to sleep, following the circadian rhythm. And yeah, that's that.
Bring chalk, bring your own chalk.
And then obviously all the accessories, bring chalk, bring baby powder, bring your ammonia salts, every single thing that you use in the gym, make sure you just throw it in your bag. And also make sure you throw it in a carry-on, not in a check bag. That's very important, because you hear all these horror stories of people checking their equipment. It gets lost, in Turkey, it gets lost in Romania, wherever, it didn't arrive, and it comes a week later, and they won't have their lifting, their singlet meet day. They won't have their belt. They're going to have to use someone else's. So always put that in the carry-on right above your head on the plane. And yeah, that's that. I mean, if I keep thinking of stuff, I'll keep saying it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and I think the other thing is, we have a group chat going for the juniors and sub juniors. Ask questions in there. If you listen to this, ask questions. We got some elder statesmen of the game like Shane Nutt going. And I remember talking to Anthony on the podcast. Shout out to our previous episode if you want to go listen to it, that where I interviewed Anthony. And I could just tell that it was like Daddy Shane Nutt was there, so everything's gonna be okay. Like you know what I mean? I could tell he's an elder statesman. He's been around the block. He's a very experienced coach. He's done international travel before, things like this. And he kind of took some of the other lifters under his wing and kind of help them answer questions. On the equip side, Luke Mellon's gonna be there, and he's done many international competitions now. He was in Turkey last year, so if you're on the equip side, reach out to those elder lifters that have been there, done that. I think anyone that went to Turkey last year, we should have good advice for you, especially. And this we can only assume this competition is probably going to be better than it was in Turkey, as far as the facilities and the production and all that kind of stuff. Might be a wrong assumption. We'll see when we get there. Thankfully for the classic lifters, they'll have the whole week of equipped lifting as guinea pigs first, and a lot of those big boys where they're going to get their food and stuff like that on the equipped side. They were pretty helpful last year, but yeah, we're a team, so help each other out.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I want to mention, going back to Luella, was that she totaled 582.5. Her nominating total, or Chelsea's nominating total for the World Championships in Romania is 540. So Mike Gold, back to you on this, and Julia as well, if you've looked into this. And Julia, feel free to jump in here if you have anything. Just let us know on these topics. Where do you see this matchup falling, Mike?
So, I mean, like I wrote in the preview thing, I think Luella is stronger. I think she is the stronger lifter, but I think she's going to be affected by the NAPFs. I wouldn't be confident that she repeats what she just did. Mm-hmm. And Chelsea definitely has a better deadlift than Luella, and has, I think, a little bit of a better bench also. And she's making good progress. And she's also she's just a technical lifter. Her lifts look clean. She shouldn't have any issues with the judges. They're all to standard. So I would say Luella is the favorite, but I think that Chelsea has a chance. I would say probably it's more like a 75-25 kind of thing, but I think there's a real chance.
And where do you just looking at Chelsea's training? She nominated as a 540, but that was, I guess that was in Scottsdale, so it wasn't that long ago. It was only maybe 2 months ago. So what do you think as far as where do you put her top end? And then Julia will come to you.
I think, so I was thinking 570 top end, something like that.
570. All right, Julia, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with that assessment. I think Luella is slightly ahead going into this. However, I think that Chelsea has a chance to she can really peak correctly this time. And Luella kind of had her peak disturbed by NAPF. However, like I said, I talked to Luella's coach, and he said that they trained, I think it was bench and deadlift right through. So they did not do any type of peaking, any type of tapering for bench or deadlift. So that is something to be aware of. I don't think, that it's going to be completely disturbed, but I would say, from a preparation standpoint, Chelsea is in a better spot. She does have some kilos to make up. I think it's going to be an uphill battle. But, this is something, like Tristan said earlier in the show, attempt selection, warm-ups, having a little bit of luck on your side. These are all things that make a huge difference. And I think that, this is going to be a battle if everybody comes correct, which I think they will. So I'm excited to see that. I think Chelsea definitely has the ability to take the bench world record. I know Luella tried. I think she missed her third bench, and the record is 120 kilos. They may both break it, but Chelsea has the stronger bench and deadlift, and Luella has a stronger squat. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to watch because it's going to be a battle of two very different lifters.
Yeah, we're going to know early on if Luella's squat's not on, then the door will be open for Chelsea to win the world championship. Alex and Mike, you guys got any final thoughts on that, or else are there other battles you're looking forward to? Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about the interesting battles.
All right, let's do it. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I think the only thing I saw with her attempts was they're just like really vastly different. Like her first and second was like 12 and a half or 15. And then her second to her third was 25 kilos or there was something like that. She took really big jumps. If that works for her, that's totally okay. It's just, I haven't seen that. I usually see like a big jump from first to second and then a smaller jump from second to third or around the same. But if that works for her, that's totally okay. But the temp selection is going to be a huge part in Romania because, if she missed that third squat of 265, she would have been left with 245 or whatever. I think she took a 20 kilo jump. So I think it would have been 245 she would have been left with, which is, leaving a lot of kilos on the table. So just being smart with the temp selection and trying to really just maximize your knowing of what you can do on the day.
Yeah, they're going to have to work out a system. It'll either be Ven and someone else. Whenever we have these battles, they're going to assign one of the national team coaches to each lifter and let them battle it out, with the coach, so there's not going to be any, sketchy stuff going on where one coach is calling both lifters and they're in a battle, anything like that. So attempt selection will be huge. Making lifts will be huge. I think the standard is going to be a little stricter. I think at the NAPF, it was a lot of our refs. It was a lot of Canadian refs. It felt like a little bit more like national level refereeing. It wasn't international competition, but there were some lifts here and there where I looked and I was like, squat was like real borderline. And we definitely saw in Malta that they weren't getting away with anything like that. So that will be another thing too, is just if the jury or if the officiating is tighter, I think that helps Chelsea a little bit as well.
And I have a question. Was there a jury in NAPFs?
Yeah, there was a jury. But sometimes. Go ahead. Were
they being used or no?
Not too much. They were mostly being used to protest if your own lifter missed a lift. No one was protesting made lifts by other lifters. And then definitely they were watching replay, and so they would just on replay like kind of overturn some things here and there. Mostly, only a couple of times did they overturn something to a no lift.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
I think they were pretty generous. I know the refs that were at the NAPF personally really well. We were just in the trenches with them for what felt like a month. But they're all super nice and like a little bit, I would say a little bit more of the easier referees. Linda McFeeters from Canada was there. She's pretty hardcore. One of the refs from Panama is pretty hardcore, but otherwise it was a lifter friendly reffing pool for sure.
Yeah. So. I was going to say, I think Elisa had a squat overturned by the Panamanian ref, or maybe it was a Costa Rican ref. I can't remember, but squat overturned. But in general, they're pretty good. I was actually concerned I was going to get called because of my like wonky shoulder elbow situation, and I wasn't. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be tighter at Worlds. It almost always is. So
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Mike Gold, bust through some of your battles here because I know
Okay.
we're
So
already
we'll
going
start-
for 2 hours.
We'll start with obviously the one that we're going to have the most inside knowledge on here. So it's a very interesting year. I think this is the most like the deepest weight class I've ever seen. Last year, Alex, you came in fifth with what was 722 or 720?
720. I think I might even have been a three-way tie, but it was the fifth and sixth. We tied the same. I just had a lower body weight. 720.
Right. Yeah. So last year was interesting because it was basically there was like a 4 at the top, and then you came fifth, and then 6 and 7 are actually like 2 of the top this year in nominations in Andrea and Suleiman, right? So yeah. So but this year, like it's crazy because you're nominated in 11th with 722.
22. Yeah.
So there's literally, meaning I would say, I mean, I don't know, I don't have like full insight on all of the 15 lifters nominated with like 715 and up, but just without like any real insight, there's probably gonna be like 10 people fighting for the podium. Literally.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Like I don't know, some of these people probably like are capped out at their nominations. Like some of them might have just hit it or whatever. I don't know. I know some of the lifters, some of them I don't. But realistically, there might be like 8 lifters who total 750 plus. I don't think anyone's going to total like 800 range like last year. I don't see it. But I think in terms of just depth, I think I was actually discussing this with Connor also. I think we realistically will probably see something like 8 lifters end up totaling 750 plus.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I mean, it's gonna be super deep, and it's gonna come down to a lot of just those attempt selections and just like chipping each other on those attempts, like not knowingly, but just like having that advantage of like, okay, so you're projected at 740 right now, and I'm projected at 742, and then my third deadlift will get me to 760 or whatever it is. Like it's gonna come down to that really nitty gritty, but it's gonna be a lot of just back and forth. As long as if everyone has the day that they have, then it's going to be, everyone's going to go above 750, and everyone's going to be just, it's going to be crazy if everyone starts competing well and hitting all their lifts. But once people start missing lifts, you'll see the people that drop out, and they're going to be way too far away to be pulling for that podium, pulling for that gold second, third spot, top 5, whatever it is. It's all going to come down to hitting your lifts and staying within the pack of that top 5.
And just looking at those countries, like it's Italy, France, Canada, Great Britain, US, Spain, Great Britain, New Zealand, Australia. So these are ballers. Like these are not countries that have like bad national team coaches that are going to miss too many lifts or make a lot of mistakes. Although we did see France make some mistakes, and the French head coach did DM Powerlifting America after saying, "We'll see you at Junior Worlds."
in Romania. I don't agree on that though. I think they are.
Wait, was that?
They are good coaches.
Was that with Jad Jacob?
Yeah. So that was that coach. He's like, we'll see you guys in Romania for the junior championship. So he's ready to avenge himself for sure. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So what I was saying is I disagree actually. Like I think they have like good coaching staffs most of these countries. Yeah. I think this weight class there's gonna be a ton of missed lifts. A ton.
Okay.
Because
100%.
Because there's such a close spread from like 1 to 15. Like the smart thing to do is probably just to have a game plan for squat and bench and just hit your lifts and then see where you are. But I think a lot of lifters are going to be pushing to like put up a subtotal, and they'll be like what Alex was saying. So I said there might be 10 lifters who are fighting for the podium, not that there's going to be 10 pulling for the podium. I mean, any 10 or any 12, whatever, might have a shot. There probably will only end up being 5 or 6 that make enough lifts to actually be pulling for the podium. So I think it's just going to be, people are going to miss. So Alex, without numbers, like just what's your game plan for this? Like obviously training's going really well. Bench is like looking much more than it has. Like what's your game plan to are you just trying to like stack some like 6 squats and bench and see where you're at?
Yeah. I mean, that's really where the game plan has been always hitting lifts. Really just getting my squat to just have that true potential that I know where it could be, where it's like that 620, 630 range. It just needs to be there. That's the biggest thing. And then just hitting that squat in that range, and then hitting a big bench around, like that 165 to 170 range. Getting a big subtotal where I'm confident, and if I need to take 2.5 to 5 kg less, really just making sure I hit those lifts, because I feel like I've gotten a lot stronger, especially on bench, since Powerlifting America, since junior nationals, and then just seeing where I stack up on deadlift. It's going to come down to good attempt selection. I might, just do some changing attempts at the last, sec of it for deadlifts, but it's going to just hitting lifts, always going 9 for 9. That's what it always is. Just making sure I don't miss, because once I miss and I miss 7.5 kilos, it's going to just put me in a bad position.
Right. That makes sense. I assume you're going to be, hopefully the goal 8 for 8, and then your last deadlift comes down to placing, right? You don't really, at this point of your career, you're not like a new lifter. You don't care about the exact number you total, like your last deadlift.
No.
So this actually, it's a little interesting situation compared to like previous years. Like a few years ago, you were like one of, like, especially when you were like a teen lifter, sub junior lifter, like you were definitely one of like the biggest deadlifter almost always. But here you're in like, there's like a grouping. So there's definitely people with smaller deadlifts, but there's also people who have like pulled 320 plus in comp. So here it's like the first time you're like towards the top end of the middle, rather than being like, you're not going to be pulling less. Like that's, I don't know where you're going to pull. So you're not going to be able to like load an exact number for like, okay, this locks in that. It's more like, okay, this gets me temporary gold or temporary bronze or wherever you are, depending on. So I guess even the third deadlift is less about like just putting a random number in, and more it's like you have to put in a number that you have like a level of confidence with.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That's where it's going to be, because there's going to be, I think 2 to 4 guys. From where I think my delta is going to be, probably 3 to 4 guys pulling after me and loading it. It's good that no one's going to be hitting the delta world record or the squat world record. I don't think none of those going to be broken. The bench world record can be taken, but it's really going to be just putting a number in that I think I could hit, and it's for placing, and then just seeing, if the other people are going to execute on their top end lifts.
Connor is in the chat, and he's saying anything less than 9 for 9 probably won't be enough to win. And that's definitely for sure, especially when you see these tight battles like this. He said he's loving the show, excited to hear what everyone has to say and what they're going to think it's going to take to win. Well, we can't talk about the 83s for too much longer, because we've been going for 2 hours and we want to get through some of these other battles. But is there anything, final thoughts, Julia? Anything you wanted to weigh in on this, or you want to keep it moving?
A lot. I think it's going to take a lot to win. No, I think he's 100% correct that it's echoing what Gary says too. Make attempts, and you're going to be in a better position to win. And at the world level, you really have to do that. It's not optional. And I think that's why. That's a big reason why Natalie Richards came out on top in what was perceived as very close battle there. So I think it's going to take 9 out of 9 day. I think it's going to take flawless execution, as it should, because this is the World Championships. This is, the biggest meet for juniors in the world. So, yeah.
And it's the most competitive version of it ever.
Yeah.
By far. In every weight class. So you said we should discuss some other ones. So we'll just go through some of, like, I would say the second, or maybe even the most exciting, but the other one that like compares with this class is the 93s this year are just like ridiculously stacked.
Yeah.
Meaning there's 6 people over 800, 5 people like in the 810s and up. Like, what are your thoughts on that class? Obviously, Shane, and do you know Peyton? Like I think I met him.
I didn't. I saw him at nationals. I saw him in the drug testing room. He's jacked. I didn't know how strong he was. I didn't know how. I didn't know how he was going to be able to compete with Shane like that. The only thing is I didn't see what happened on their last pull. I didn't see. I think
that was great.
It seemed like a little bit of misloading.
Him. No, Shane just outplayed him. Yeah, so Shane loaded in like something that he had no business loading, but then like Peyton thought it was real, so Peyton like waited until Shane took it, and Shane just loaded it and let it sit, and then Peyton had to go above it and had to pull like 20 kilos extra. Like on the day, Peyton was the stronger lifter.
That's what it seemed like. Yeah.
Chloe put in this great attempt, to kind of seal the deal there at the end. So yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I saw right through. I immediately messaged Shane. I'm like, wow, like, is this gonna work? And then it worked.
That's crazy.
I didn't think it could possibly work because it's like, if you do any level of scouting, like, I don't know who Peyton's coach is, but like, if you do any level of scouting, if you see somebody load like 25 kilos over their like PR, like without having seen any sort of training or anything to like tell you that it's realistic. Like, it's not like he took heavier first and second attempts. Like, he took his normal attempts and then just loaded
and then jumped like 30, 40 kilos.
Yeah. Like, that's not, I mean, but like, he's not, I mean, I'm sure he's competed before, but like, he's never competed at like international or even nationally, I don't think, Peyton. So he's a little inexperienced, like just playing the game. So that's something you learn.
But you always learn that. And that's what he learned there. And then now he knows that for Worlds, and he's going to IPF Worlds now. So
yeah.
Right.
And he'll have US national team coaches handling.
Yeah, he'll probably get Vin because Shane calls his own numbers. So
yeah, me and Shane we're gonna have Craig handling us. He's gonna be one of the helpers. He's do you know Jess McKinney? Jess Kinney?
Oh yeah, Craig Lemieux.
Is it? Yes, Craig Lemieux. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah,
he's gonna be helping. He's gonna be helping me, Shane. I think maybe even Anthony. I'm not sure about Anthony, but I know he's gonna be helping me and Shane.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Carolyn Connor is in the chat as well.
She's not in the room.
No.
Oh, she's not. No, she's not with me. No.
Too bad. We would have her on instead of you in a heartbeat. But you answered the message right away. Just joking. All right. So other thoughts on the 93s?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great battle. I can't wait to watch it. That's the biggest thing. I was going to say that we were talking about NAPFs, but I wanted to wait till we got to Junior Worlds. Like, I can't wait to just watch everyone compete, Shane and Peyton, and then obviously Nathan Javau. I hope I didn't mess up his last name, but he's one of my friends from Great Britain. Can't wait to watch all of them. And then obviously the winner last year, the Swedish bull, Liu Young. Can't wait to watch him too. It's gonna be a great battle. And I just
wait, and don't forget about the French sub junior Malik last year.
Oh yes,
one of the biggest sub junior total ever, and now he's moving up. Not moving up. I'm saying he's junior.
I've known that kid for like 4 years now. He's been powerlifting since he's like 12 years old. He's a beast. He's insane. He's crazy. I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to support the American team and just watch there. And after I compete, just support and give back. My love to the community in powerlifting.
For sure. Julia, anything you want to add?
No, just that battle at nationals was one of the craziest, most unexpected battles of the entire competition. It's really cool to see these powerlifters, these new people come out of nowhere, or who are basically unknown to us, come in and challenge really good lifters and keep them on their toes. That's wild that Malik has been lifting since he was 12. I didn't actually know that. I mean, we were talking earlier before the podcast or the show went live about, why sometimes these European countries have really, really good junior lifters that seem to be ahead of the US. And one thing I said is that, and I don't know how true this is, and it could not be at all, but they go into powerlifting as their sport. And I think, we do have people who start lifting at 12 now, and it's becoming increasingly more common, but we definitely have a tendency to view powerlifting as like a secondary sport that, we take up after we're done our main sport in high school or college. So I think that that's a major difference.
Yeah, you're a perfect example, Alex, with soccer.
I think it's because in America, like high school sports culture is like so big. So like if you're playing soccer or you're playing football or you're playing basketball, like you are like the celebrity in the school. So like people that are like good athletes entering high school, like they focus on sports. Like they're not like, I mean, they might go to the gym to lift also, but like sports is like the big thing. But like, I don't know so much about like European school culture, but like, as far as I know, like soccer is the only really big sport there. So like if you're, I mean,
Yeah.
some people are just not great at soccer. So if, like you're not great at soccer, it's not like you have 5 other options that are like
Yeah.
also just as big.
For sure. And
Yeah.
just real quick, Peyton Johnson, he comes from Reno, Nevada. He trains at American Iron Gym. That's one of our big supporter gyms that hosts meets for Powerlifting America. So definitely, shout out to American Iron Gym out there in Reno, Nevada, where they'll be helping a big role in hosting the Open Classic National Championships next year. All right, what's the next battle? Or Alex, did you have something else you want to say? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
All right, Mike, take us away. What's next?
So in terms of actual battles, so like, I mean, these next 2 aren't really as big battles, but the other 2 classes on the men's side where we have our top lifters are obviously the 105s with Anthony. But for me, this is actually interesting because to me, the real battle is not a direct battle. It's Hamza versus Anthony. Hamza in the sub junior.
Yeah.
The kid is he's insane. Like last year he was strong. This year he's like totaling like, I think he just put up like 880 in the gym with more. Like the kid's I don't think he probably won't total 900, but like he's definitely like, it's definitely possible as a sub junior when like the sub junior record for any weight class is like 800 and he's like knocking at 900.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's gonna be.
I think with him, I think it's definitely gonna see. Like I think I was watching his meet, and I think he did 820 at the meet. So he didn't go all out at the meet. Obviously, it's clear that he didn't go all out. So it's gonna see like how much his top strength will be at the meet and how much. I think he water cuts a bit. So how much he's gonna get affected by the water cut and travel because I know he's from Austria. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting to see if he can go above 870. That would be great. And that battle with Anthony, well, that side battle, I guess, not
Right.
direct battle, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Austria is like a pretty good travel. Like it's only like a 2-hour flight.
Yeah, it's not gonna be bad. And I know Anthony wanted to battle with Coco again, but I don't think Coco just didn't go to Worlds.
Yeah, it's like kind of disappointing, but now it's like now it's interesting for Anthony now because like he really gets the choice to like do whatever he wants. I mean, obviously there are other lifters and there might be somebody who puts up something like bigger than expected, but like he has the opportunity to like, I guess like call it overshoot, like take stuff that you wouldn't take if you had to worry about another lifter and like theoretically try to put up like a statement. Like, I mean, he's one of the best. He has potential to be one of the best open 105s in the world. So
100%. Yeah. He's insane. He is great lifts.
And Coco's best total is 895, and that was from Euros. And he also did that in Turkey last year as well. So if Anthony can go over 900, he would solidify himself, as the best in that age group and weight class. So that would be awesome. I'm sure he'll be pushing for that. I know 900 has been a big. He already didn't he already total exactly 900?
Yeah, I don't think he cares about 900. He wants more.
Yeah, exactly. So if he can bury that total by Coco by 15 kilos, that would be sick. He
wants at least 2K.
At least
2K. 9075 is 2K. At least 2K.
What's the world record?
895, I think.
Oh, 895 is world record. Okay.
World record.
He has Coco has the world record squat, and he should break that on a good day. The world record bench is 233.5. Like Anthony's bench is also like right there. So he theoretically could take the squat, bench, and total. So.
Yeah.
Julia, what were you going to say? You were trying to say something?
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I think he had some goals a while back. I think we talked about him possibly totaling into like the teens, like 950. Something.
Oh, he didn't say that stuff. We said that.
We said it. And I kind of coaxed him in the episode, the interview that I interviewed him. I was like, he was kind of talking about the best numbers, and I was adding it up in my head. And I was like, so we're talking like 920, right? But of course, we like to gas up our guy. That's our guy, McDouble. And everyone loves him. So hopefully he'll ball out and get that bad taste out of his mouth from Turkey. Yeah. So Mike, what's the next one?
Yeah. Well, the other class that like I'm very, very confident and got more confident today in bringing the goal is 56s. I mean, Kyle is like, he's on a tear. He's coming with like a big nomination lead, but I was actually shout out to Ish because we were discussing this class and he was showing me, I think his name is Taiga or something, the Japanese lifter who was nominated in second. So he is also training well. So he's like pushing like 660 plus in the gym. So he's way above his nomination. But I mean, with a 700-pound deadlift, right? You get a lot of room there. He's gonna obviously, I mean, he's gonna be way above the junior world record deadlift is like 288. So he could like literally open with it potentially, or at least for sure second. And if he wants to, I mean, I think there's a good chance he locks it up before his third deadlift. But if he wants to, he can easily take the open world record deadlift, right? 300.5 from Brian. So I think that's there. And then the junior total record is like 687 or something. And I think that's possibly in play.
So real quick, just for people who are listening, we're talking Kyle Nowak in the 66s. If you look on our Instagram story, we reposted his PR deadlift today, 700 pounds, 317.5 kgs. Go take a look at it, judge for yourself. It moves pretty quick. It looks pretty much to the standard to me. What do you guys think? What do you think? Julia, did you see it?
Yeah, I thought it looked good to me. I didn't see anything that, was a red flag or anything. I definitely have seen people pull lifts or hit squats close to the end of prep and kind of count it as a gym PR, and like nothing close to that is going to be reached on the platform. I didn't get that feeling here. I think he is really trying to train to the standard he's going to have to hit. So
Mike?
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, I think this was a great sign, but first off, it was pound plates and the lockout looked a little soft. I don't think he's pulling 700 like that. It's not happening. But I think
Alex,
this
hold on, Alex, what's your take?
No, I mean, he is correct, but the only thing is like in rebuttal with that is he's always pulled on pound plates going into every single meet, and especially the meet when it was 2 years ago when he pulled for the win at nationals. He's always been training on pound plates, and it doesn't seem that pound plates affects him that much. He's always on an OPB and pound plates. I don't think that's a problem as long as he knows that he could adjust on the day and he adjusts to the feel of kilos. I don't think it's a problem at all because he's always been on pound plates.
So
yeah, that's true, but I don't think he's like hit like all-time PRs in comps. Like
what did he do at national? He did 300.5 or
302.
302. But
I mean that's.
I think he had hit more in the gym, and like at like University Worlds or whatever it's called, he missed his second and third deadlifts there.
He was training with a lot of straps. He was doing a lot with straps as well, and I've noticed that this prep he's taking his top singles a lot without straps, and same thing going into nationals this year. And the taper, he was talking about it in his. I don't know if we do a press conference. I think we did a press conference, or at least I interviewed him with my phone. And he said, the taper was absolutely flawless for him. So if they run back that with the same strategy and he peaks well, hopefully this 700 could fall clean. Hopefully he won't need it and he can YOLO it if necessary and get it up at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's like way below this. Like, it's not like what Julie was saying is right. Like you see lifters that like do lifts that are like super sketchy where like they're nowhere near it. I don't think that. I just think like realistically more like 310, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And
which would still be an 8.5 kilo PR. So
yeah.
7.5.
Also, I think like if he like doesn't miss like multiple squats and bench, like if he's even like 7 for 8 or 6 for probably even 6 for 8 coming into his third deadlift, it might not
he's
matter.
Gonna be fine.
5 for 8 for sure. So I think he'll be able to load whatever he wants. Meaning like he can load if he wants to load for the world record deadlift, if he wants to load for the junior world record total, like whatever like his like personal goal is, like other than winning, I think he'll probably have that opportunity.
I have a question. So does anyone know why he always trains on pound plates? Is there like a preference?
I think that's just his gym.
It does better on Instagram.
Boom!
I'm saying
Mike Gold saying that
he's like an influencer. I'm saying that's what he is. Like I mean,
I don't know if his gym has kilos. I don't think his gym, because I've seen him train on kilos, and it's not the same gym that he trains at. I've seen him squat on kilos. I think he just squatted 485 on kilos, or 470, whatever it was. But it looked like a different facility, different gym. I think just he has two different gyms in Ohio that he trains at, and one's pound plates and one kilos. And Yeah, maybe he does like training on pound plates or deadlifts, but yeah, I mean, it works for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recognize the gym that he's straight like the
Yeah,
pound plate gym. Well, it would make sense if it's not if it doesn't actually have kilos, it's not a
exactly.
pound plate
Yeah.
gym. But
Yeah. Bonus
yeah,
that his Instagram has got a ton of juice and has blown up, so that's good for him. All right, what other battles we got? Because 66, or what other things are you looking forward to at the World Championship? Let's let Mike keep running down his list, and then we'll go to you two at the end, Alex and Julia.
okay, so
What else you got, Mike?
So the other things, let's see. So we just went through the
93s, the 105s.
okay, so then okay, so sub juniors actually will be really entertaining. They're like start with like the 66s, Daniel Harris. The kid is like insane. He's like making progress on every lift. He's gonna be really entertaining to watch.
Okay.
I think he might break the total world record, and I mean, I don't know. I don't have the nominations in front of me. Let me check.
His big thing is always, squatting high. But yeah, he's nominated.
He's second, right? 572, 5. Yeah, so he's nominated second. I mean, it's gonna be a battle, but yeah, his squats often are a little high. His bench pauses are not necessarily there, which is why I wouldn't like base his expected total off his gym total at all.
So
But I
he's
think
nominated as a 66. Okay, yeah, that's right.
no, he is a 60. He's a light 66. He's like
Okay,
63 or something.
Gotcha.
Just posted about that. But so I don't think he is. No, I don't think he's not going to replicate his gym total just because everything's like a little sketchy. But his gym total's high enough, like above where he's nominated, that I think he's like going to potentially like go for the sub junior total world record and should have a shot of winning. So I think that'll be interesting. And then the 74s, that will be really interesting. So Alex, you said you bumped into Nick. He doesn't post.
Yeah, we talked about it.
He doesn't post, so we don't know. But like I was when I was like looking through like the stuff, I looked even at old stuff and I saw his he pulled like I think it was like 600 up for a pause single or something like that.
Yeah.
Like and it was like an RP like 6. It was like something ridiculous. And what did he pull at nationals? It was 259. 259, and now he's like pulling 272 paused easily. So
yeah,
he's gonna shatter the world record there.
Yeah.
I think that'll be an interesting class because he's nominated second right after Jack Reynolds. So we got 1 and 2 in that class, and they're kind of like polar opposites. Like Jack Reynolds, like he's like strong, but like his squats are like a little sketchy. His bench is really, really strong, but like it doesn't really pause usually.
A lot of touch and go.
I remember seeing like a year ago, he did like this like circus 405 bench, which like obviously he not that he thought was a real bench, but like just like he has the strength, just like I don't know what he could hit like on the platform, maybe like 165, something like that. Like
what did he hit at nationals?
So at nationals he hit 155.5.
Okay.
He posted a 165 bench this week. That was like close, like maybe a little bit of a short pause, but like it wasn't touch and go. So
yeah,
he's in that range. So he definitely put and then he had I think it was a 265 deadlift, which is 24 kilos more than he hit at national. So he's putting a lot on his total, but he's going to need to because Nick's going to put an insane amount. Like I think Nick's putting like I literally think he's going to put like near 50 kilos on his total.
Yeah,
Alex,
I was talking to him. And,
yeah, go
well,
ahead.
I can't speak too much on it because, don't want to reveal the game plan. But he's looking really strong. He was showing me some training and the numbers that he's, hitting in training. He's looking extremely strong. And all I can really say is he's just going to be ready to go for the battle with Jack. I mean, it's going to be a USA versus USA battle. So it's going to be hype. But yeah, he's gonna definitely be ready. He's looking very strong.
Yeah, there's a French lifter also who's strong that like doesn't post.
Okay.
I've been told he's like doing stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think Nick, like I have Nick as like a pretty decent favorite just based off like what I'm expecting. But
yeah,
I think,
and he's going to be the higher deadlift. He's going to be the bigger puller. So I'm not always go against for the bigger puller, but he's going to be he's going to be pulling to that big range, probably a good bit ahead of Jack.
Yeah.
All right. So Mike, give us some more highlights for junior worlds that are on your list. So let's not go through every one because we can't do a full weight class by weight class breakdown here. Alex is already like, I promised 30 minutes and you guys are already like making me stay on here forever.
No, you're good.
If anyone has a bounce, just let us know and it's totally fine. But what are some of the other big highlights that you're looking for there, Mike?
So I guess I'll stick with, okay. So we obviously got the 69s, which is the most stacked class like in juniors. Happens to be, it's a little disappointing. I was looking at the nominations and we're missing some of the like 69s at Euros. 69 juniors at Euros was the best battle I've ever seen. And a couple of them are not coming to Romania, which is a little disappointing, but like,
well, isn't it because they're aged out?
No. So the ones I'm talking about are not aged out. One of them quit powerlifting because they were upset about the jury or something. I was actually having a conversation with them. Like somebody who totaled like 5'10" or something. Somebody who was like temporarily had the world record total and got like upset.
She quit.
Yeah.
What?
Was it the like she's like Lithuanian or like some Northern European country?
Yeah.
I remember that.
And she quit because she didn't like what the jury said.
So she was upset about the judges, then the jury, and then like the whole drug testing thing. A lot of things. There was like a lot of stories. It was great. It was made for a lot of entertainment because she was freakishly strong and like she like intentionally didn't take chips and did whatever. I don't know, but either way.
So Alex, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so she's not showing up, and then somebody else moved up to the 76s, so that's another one who's not back.
So let's get Alex's take on the 69s real quick.
Yeah, I mean he probably can't reveal all the information, but whatever he could.
But it's okay. But tell us, give us a breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 girls ahead of Carolyn, and it's gonna be fun because just regarding the circumstances, I'm actually gonna be handling her, and I'm gonna be the coach. Obviously, we're gonna have the head coaches there, but I'm gonna be her like personal coach on the side. And last year we didn't do this just because of how close it was. Like she was the last session on Thursday, and then I was the first session on Friday. Now it's like she's the first session on Thursday, and I'm the first session on Friday. It's a 24-hour difference, so I'm gonna be handling her just like I did at nationals, and it's gonna be awesome. I mean, it's just gonna be great. She's looking extremely strong. She just like the amount of progress she's made in the past, since literally March of 2022 is absurd. Like she's put on 90 kilos, but it's going to be more than that at Worlds. She's going to be, since Worlds to Worlds, it's going to be almost 100 kilos because we're looking to push past that 500 mark, and she's looking really strong. I don't want to give away too much, but
that's fine.
The squat world record is too low, so we're going to change that. And I mean, all 3 lifts are just going really good right now. So I'm excited to battle with the 2 French girls. And then I think the other girl is Italian. Everyone's looking strong. I mean, they're going to come in all strong. It's just, the battle of execution. And we see some of the other lifters, and, some of them are squatting high in training. We just want to make sure we're executing in training, doing all the lifts to standard, all the comp pauses for bench, just executing to standard so we don't have to have a hiccup on the platform, hiccup on meet day. And I'm just, really proud of her, and I'm excited to see what she's going to do and handle her.
Yeah, she's basically like one of the most decorated lifters in Powerlifting America. She's never competed at a local meet. She only does nationals and international competitions. And pretty much if you look at her open powerlifting, she adds like 30 kilos to her total or more every single competition. So she totaled 483 at nationals, at junior nationals in Scottsdale. Is that right? Yeah.
No, 470.5.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. That's her dots. I'm sorry. 470.5. So if she's going to add 32 kilos, so she'll be right there, knocking on 500, which is a big total for a junior, and especially a young junior. Like she just aged into juniors. Isn't that right? Like she's 19.
Last year was her.
Last year she was
powerlifting last year. So that was.
So that's huge. And so, I mean, she's on pace to be like the highest level lifter of all time here, never doing a local meet, only doing internationals and nationals. So it's really cool. She's saying in the chat, She's saying, shh, be quiet. Don't say anything. So, but we already got it. We already got it. Carolyn, sorry. We know you're going to break the squat world record. And you're going to break 500 kilo total. So these other ladies will have to up their game for sure, or be on their game if they want any chance of hanging with you there. But all right, any other battles, any other things that you guys are looking forward to? Major highlights here. We can't get too far into the nitty gritty because we do need to end this episode here before too much longer.
I guess
and we got one other topic we want to talk
I'll
about.
stick with one last one.
Okay.
The 57 sub juniors, Eleni. She's like looking insanely strong right now. She's nominated like a few kilos in second, like she's like maybe 5 behind, but she's gonna shatter the world record deadlift. Like she pulled 402 the other day in the gym. The world record's like, I don't know, like 160 something. So she's gonna likely open above it. I think Vin actually might have told me that she is or not. I don't remember if he said that, but I think she's gonna open above it. I think that's gonna be a great class. She's gonna put up like a massive total, probably somewhere like maybe into the 400s, which is like pretty crazy for a 57 sub junior. And I think she is probably, in my opinion, the most likely person on the female side to take home a gold. So I think she's definitely going to be very interesting to watch.
Well, in the sub juniors, I mean,
in Eleni,
any class, I think she's going to be the most likely female to take home a gold.
I mean, besides the supers, or besides.
Oh, right, yeah, right. Well, I already take it for granted we won gold and silver there. You're right.
Yeah. I'll throw Jessica Haggerty into the mix in the 52s. She's a superstar that nobody knows about because she's apparently not allowed to post her training at all. But she is.
What do you mean? When you say not allowed to, what do you mean?
By her coach, doesn't allow her to post anything, even like RPE 5 sets of 5 on bench, like last 7th to last warm-ups, nothing. But yeah, so she's a stud, and she performed really, really well at high school nationals, and she's been working in darkness since then. And this total is super old that she's nominated with a 327, and she's absolutely a stud. So I think that she's probably going to win the gold medal as well. She's in a tight battle. She's nominated 5 kilos apart from first place. So that'll be a fun one to watch as well. Okay. So Mike's list is done. Julia, is there any other ones that you want to add?
No, I mean, I think that basically covers it. I think maybe the 84s we have, oh my God, why am I blanking?
Antara Jackson.
Antara Jackson's nominated 3rd. She's nominated a good ways behind 2nd and 1st, though.
Yeah, I guess we should admit Jessica Kinney. She's a killer. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Problem is, there's the French girl who's insane there. So I think she's gonna take 2nd, but she'll put up something surprising because she makes progress meet to meet. So
yeah,
she'll.
I mean, for the U.S. side, as far as interest is concerned, definitely the rematch between Daisy and Joy is big. To see, just that battle between the two Americans. We can see that they're both nominated a little far down, Daisy in 7th and Joy in 9th. They're both pretty young. Joy especially is like just aging into juniors. So she was a sub junior. Obviously she's been hitting PRs left and right, about throwing down huge benches. Now her deadlift and her squat are coming along as well. We don't see as much out of Daisy as far as posting is concerned, but we know that this age group makes a lot of progress. But that'll be a fun battle between two Americans to see who finishes higher in the rankings. Even if it might be difficult for either to get on the podium, but we just never know. Any other ones then? Alex, you got any other ones that you're looking forward to?
No, I think that's it.
All right. I just want to mention, because I just want to hit over on the equip side a couple here, and I'm not sure, Mike Gold, have you looked at any of them?
No, I don't know what equipped is.
So I don't know. Either. So I definitely want to mention like Ava Polini. She's lifting on both classic and equipped. She's a star. She's super young, sub junior in the sport. Mackenzie Wells in the sub juniors as well has been making good progress. Catherine Cargill, sub junior, 69 kilo. I'm going to have her on the podcast. She has a legit chance of winning it. And then on the junior side, we've got some returning legends here in Jasmine Barlow and Lola Sharame, who were there last year. And then also basically one of the hottest juniors out right now is Bella Vargas from Texas, and she puts up big numbers. And so I was talking with the junior coach, John Burford, in the Cayman Islands, and he specifically mentioned Catherine Cargill and Bella Vargas are probably our best chances there, and they're going to do something special. And then on the men's side, I do want to mention we've got the monster Chase Lawton in the 105s. I think all of these were all sub juniors last year. Alex, can you remember?
Yeah,
they were all in Turkey
Chase. Yeah, Chase was there last
and
year.
they're all moving up into the juniors, so it's going to be tough battles there. But also Arayo, I remember him in Arayo Sanyola is a sub junior 105. I remember him at high school nationals. He's crazy strong and super young as well. And there's just a bunch of them over here on the Nick, like for instance, Nicholas Caldonia, sub junior, super strong. I'm not looking at where they're nominated. I'm just like rolling through our roster here, but these guys all have a good shot. Jordan Coomer in the chat, the Cargills, they're the strongest family in the state of Georgia. They do a lot for the sport in Georgia. They're going to be hosting meets for us down there. And pretty much her older brother, Andrew, was in the Cayman Islands handling as well. And Kat is definitely like the star of the family. So I'm going to get her on the podcast for sure. I'm going to get Bella Vargas on the podcast as well. And then we'll be doing our whole thing with the media team in Romania. So we'll be trying to do pre-comp press conferences. We'll be doing pre-game shows. We'll be doing post-comp press conferences. I'll be interviewing people in between disciplines with my phone and posting on Instagram stories, all that kind of stuff. So while we're out there, you'll get to know some of these other equipped lifters as well. I think our equipped team just overall is pretty strong here. Let me pull this back up real quick. We're fielding 14 on the men's side and 16, a full squad on the women's side. So we're one of the few out there that will have a full squad on the women's side for equipped as well. So Karen Wen is on there, a Martiego's lifter. She's always like one of the most fun people. So definitely some people that you want to check out for sure. So all right, that pretty much wraps it up then for junior and sub junior worlds. Unless Julia, you got anything or anyone else have final thoughts on this?
Well, I just think it's pretty cool to see our equipped side doing so well and having so many stars there. I think there's a lot of credit to John Burford there. I know in the past, like the European countries have been dominant on the equipped side, Ukraine especially. And we've been seeing a lot of lifters come over from equipped and dominate in raw, at the open level. So it's, pay attention to the equipped side because you could be seeing these names on both equipped and raw down the road. They could be a threat. So yeah, just looking forward to that.
For sure. All right, then let's move into our final topic here. And Alex, if you got to go, feel free to bounce. But I think this is gonna be kind of a fun one. We wanted to talk about breaking news, and there's, current events, so-called, which, obviously we already hit on the North American Powerlifting Championships. That's definitely the biggest news that's happening this week as far as international comps are concerned. But Brandon Petrie went on the King of the Lifts podcast and released another banger of an episode. And I definitely wanted to talk about it a little bit. A couple of the highlights that he mentioned, I'll just run through real quick and then we'll get your all's take on this. We can get into a talk about it. He said that there's a lot more people coming over to Powerlifting America than we know about, and that we are expecting. It's not just some of the big names, but it's a lot more lifters than the big names that people are mentioning often. He had a quote on there that, he's talking about the future of the sport. And he says the IPF is the future of the sport, is like an exact quote from him, which I think is really cool to see that now him and Russ have both kind of mentioned where they've seen what the IPF is doing. They're seeing what Powerlifting America is doing and they like it. And that's a big part of the reason why they're coming over. He's got a ton of ideas about media stuff. A lot of it is stuff that we're already doing. We're talking about pregame shows, doing interviews with the athletes before. I think we all kind of thought that Sheffield kind of missed an opportunity by having a 30-minute countdown timer instead of having a desk with Matt Gary sitting at it, since he was sitting right there in the front row, and some other superstars like Sophia Ellis was sitting there and Jurins was there. Could have brought those three up, put them on a desk, put a mic on them and did a pregame show. That's something that we're doing. which I went, we did that in Malta. We're going to try and do that with all of our live streams going forward for all of our nationals and stuff like that. But what I want to see happen is for that to be incorporated into the main live broadcast. So in Malta and in Romania, we're going to be running our own little side YouTube stuff that we're doing for our lifters, but I would like to see that stuff in the main broadcast. And I just talked back and forth to Petrie in the DMs a little bit, and we kind of reached a conclusion that's like, it's great that we're doing it, but we need the IPF and the other, our national meets and the other regional meets like the NAPF to adopt this stuff into the just the standard for broadcast, which it is in every other sport. Like literally no other sport comes on and says, like turns on the camera and right at kickoff before a football game without telling you anything before it. Even on a 1 o'clock game on just any Sunday during NFL season, when there's 8 or 9 games happening all at once, they at least go to the booth for like a little bit of a pregame show, at least a 5-minute pregame show. And then of course they have the studio pregame show that's going on for an hour before as well. So it's like just stuff like this that we got to incorporate it. The other question I kind of DM'd with him a little bit about is the media in powerlifting soft? He wants to hear more raw emotional reactions, like people be required to do press conferences after a tough loss, like you do in 100%. Any sport. And then
the media is definitely soft.
And then the last one was and then we'll go on all these topics, especially this one. But yeah, should powerlifting feds get more involved in creating rivalries like other federations do? Like the NFL will like explicitly like troll a team with the schedule, like making you have to like go against like Aaron Rodgers probably has a game against the Packers early in the season, where you have to.
The NFL actually doesn't do that. The NFL, the schedule is preset.
They definitely do it. They definitely do it for sure. They have flex.
They don't. You play every division every 3 years. You play
but as far as what they put on TV,
there's they'll definitely troll, TV, but not the schedule.
And they've definitely hyped and built the rivalries up within the division. So then you're going to get 2 of those games a year and stuff like that. But so the question is, okay, let's say we're Powerlifting America, which we obviously are, like the NFL and like the UFC. They're the organizing bodies for those sports. They set up situations for there to be rivalries and for there to be conflicts amongst people within their own fed. Obviously in UFC, they do the live press conferences before in front of a live audience and, get people to talk shit to each other and stuff like, should we do more stuff like that? So overall, these are the topics from the Petrie episode that I had made note of. Let's start off with IPF is the future of the sport, which I'll quick take on that because I think it's all pretty much unanimous. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, like everyone, not everyone, but we can't speak for everyone, but a lot of the top names that have seen what Sheffield has done, have seen what the IPF is becoming. And I think it's really just just recency bias where they saw the split from the USAPL and IPF, and then they just kind of saw there was kind of like this kind of missed time of just not doing much. And they're like, oh, the Pro Series is going to be so good in USAPL. And it really didn't end up being that good. Then Sheffield finally came in 2023 because I've been powerlifting for 4 years and I was going to go to Sheffield in 2020, the first one, or like the one that was going to be in 2020. And people kind of were forgetting about Sheffield and this big event, this big cash money meet, the biggest meet of all meets. And then it finally came to fruition in 2023. And then now everyone wants to go back to IPF. It's kind of just about what's hot in the moment, what was hot there. And it was the USAPL for about a year or two. And now that the USAPL split, now Powerlifting America is the Fed to be in to get to the IPF. Everyone's commuting back to the Powerlifting America. So you have all the top guys, you have Russ, Petrie, and then there's talks of Ashton and Bob coming over. And I was actually talking to someone today about there's just the debate of like, well, if you're going to total 900 kilos in IPF and then, the guy totals 1,000 USAPL, like, are you really going to say you're the strongest in IPF? And I'm just like, it's just 2 different ballparks. And I just think all the lifters should be in Powerlifting America and the IPF because it's the federation to be in. There's nothing really I see that's the USAPL is doing for the lifters. Powerlifting America is for the lifters. It's innovating with the press conferences and just everything that's just in the powerlifting meet. It's just doing it correctly. And then obviously it goes to IPF Worlds where you have the best commentators there, you have the best live streams. And then you obviously have the most pinnacle powerlifting event, which is Sheffield, competing for that Getting to that stage is just insane to me. And then I know hopefully in a few years I will get there. But yeah, I mean, everyone is coming to Powerlifting America. Everyone wants to be back in IPF. And they just, they kind of were just late to the party. I saw this back in, 2022. I was the first I was member 299. I was right on Powerlifting America. I was like, yep, I want to go to Worlds because that's been my dream since I was 15, 16 years old. And, I joined Powerlifting America right away and I've been on the world teams. This is my second time now. So I'm excited for it and excited for more people to switch over.
Yeah. And then now with World Games going raw as well. I mean,
yeah.
Also for university athletes, they have this organization called FISU, which runs like a university Olympics that every other year, the University World Cup is going to be sanctioned by FISU. It'll be a part of the FISU World Championships, which gets the universities involved, which hopefully will bring some money involved into university powerlifting, where there'll be scholarships and things because it's sanctioned by a IOC recognized organization in FISU. So like, that's a huge thing to be like a couple of steps, just right below University Olympics. And then obviously, World Games is at that level as well. So yeah, there's a lot over here. We have the NAPF championships. We're hosting it in Scottsdale next year. So, the production is going to go up. The year after that, it's in Jamaica. Then they just voted it's going to be in Belize. So these are all great places to visit as well. What other thoughts you guys have about the stuff that I mentioned from Petrie? What do you think about the live broadcast stuff? Julia.
So,
yeah.
Sorry.
Go
ahead, Mike. She's saying okay.
No, go for it, because you were instrumental in bringing that to Worlds. So yeah.
Oh no, he's talking. Wait, what are you talking about? You're talking about
talking just about the general ideas that he has about pushing the media forward. Some of the stuff is stuff like pregame shows and stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, so I would say in general, there's two things with media. One thing that I don't like, even with like the best announcers in the world, is that I think the media's job is to be a little bit more interactive, meaning I see too much like waiting 30 seconds, like being non-committal in calls and stuff like that. Like when you're announcing, right, people are watching it, but a lot of people that are watching either don't know powerlifting super well or don't have a great understanding of judging or whatever. They want to listen to a commentator like say, oh, I think that was a good lift, or I think it's better, or this is why that, like, you can't be 100% politically correct and be the best commentator you could be at the same time. Like there's a line. Obviously, you don't want to cross the line. I don't know where exactly the line is, but like there's too much being non-committal. I think, like in general, like I'm not talking about any specific announcers. I'm talking about all announcers. There's way too much like, okay, squats. Let's see what the judges say. Like
you could say in powerlifting.
Yeah, like you could say what you think.
Like,
sometimes you'll be like, there's nothing wrong with saying like, oh, that looked high, and then like if the judges say good, be like, oh, I'm surprised, or saying I think the judges made a bad call. Like there's no, like in every other sport, when there's announcers and they think the refs missed the call, they say it. Like you're allowed to say it. You don't have to like.
And the crowd boos the refs too.
Like,
absolutely.
Like feverishly in some cases. Like I remember a Chiefs game where they basically booed the refs for like the full third and fourth, like the end of the third quarter and the whole fourth quarter. They just never stopped booing, which you don't get that in power. It's a very nice sport. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I've seen that. I have seen like cases of that, but especially with Ryan Lapidat and Joe, who usually commentate Worlds. I think they're always commentating Worlds, and they both commentate Sheffield. Like you could hear the difference, and I love they just interact so well, and like the difference of them because their voice change, and just like Ryan's like, oh, I don't know about that lift. Like he does have that, I guess that judgment, and he like speaks about it. Like with Gavin's third squat at Sheffield, they're just like, oh, I don't know. Like let's see another angle, or let's see what the like I guess you could say, like, oh, let's see what the judges say because you just don't know. But also that he's like, oh, I don't know. That look high. Like you could even bring in like past performances, like. This was 3 reds in 2022 South Africa. Like, will it be 3 reds again? Like saying stuff like that will just be like, getting the viewers on their feet. Like, oh, is it actually going to pass? Like, or is the jury going to get overturned? Is the jury going to get in? I mean, yeah, it's all about what the commentators make of it, and having their own like personalities. Like, for UFC where you have like Joe Rogan and stuff like that.
Yeah, Julia, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I mean, yeah, I would prefer the commentators to be honest about what they think. I think it's a little more exciting. I understand why they're not. I mean, we are not a professional sport yet. These lifters aren't paid to be there. They are still doing this for fun. And so it can be a little bit alarming to have people, speak about you in certain ways. But I think that is important to move the sport forward. That being said, I have been in like kind of a situation like that myself, which I can tell you guys about later. But yeah, I mean, I think that is, honest commentary, hard-hitting commentary is going to be essential, because you can't really be analytical and kind of toe the line of, what's acceptable. You have to, you really have to dig into it, and you have to ask the hard-hitting questions, and you have to say the things that are on everyone's mind for it to be compelling. There's people complain about like, I remember like for years, nationals, people would just complain about the live streams because they would just get anyone to commentate. They wouldn't know anything about the sport. They wouldn't really explain anything about the sport. They wouldn't say anything meaningful. They'd say, very kind of weird things about the lifters. And that really does hold it back. That really does not make it a spectator sport, because, you can have a lot of people in the arena, like at Sheffield, but in reality, like most people are going to be watching a live stream. They're not going to be there. So it's very, very important that you have people who know what they're talking about, who are able to explain everything, and who aren't afraid to say what they're feeling, and don't feel like they're going to be held back by any penalty from a federation or whatever.
And I think that even goes with being critical of the refs and being critical of the calls as well, because you see that in any other sport. They're like, I don't know about that one. That wasn't a very good call. They're not going to be like, wow, that ref is an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to go that far, but you can at least say, look, Mike Gold is like, yeah, that's what he wants to hear. But I mean, you should at least in a nice way say,
to do that.
You should be able to, no, we're talking commentators. They shouldn't feel scared that there's going to get repercussions. Even us on this podcast should not feel like we have to second guess ourselves from saying something that is an honest thought that's out there in our minds and in other people's minds about, the IPF or Powerlifting America or any of the other federations out there. It's like we should be able to, have that open dialogue about things. That's how you progress. That's how you 100%. Make things better. Mike, go ahead, Julia.
Can I just say one thing? Because actually, when we were talking about Worlds, I was a few weeks out from NAPF, and I was so scared that someone was going to listen to this and like send it to some judge, and they were going to have it out for me. I was legitimately scared, because you never know, things like that have happened, which we can talk about again off the podcast. But
I mean, Delaney with the showmanship, and then having, at least the vibe be that the refs didn't like that, whether that's true or not true, whether they like dancing or they don't like dancing.
It wasn't refs. There was one specific ref. The head ref for Delaney was also the strictest, most obnoxious ref in the entire competition. All the sessions.
I heard she's also the nicest person, FYI.
She might. Let's say she's not a nice person, but I'm talking about as a pure ref. She was also the ref that got. It was the same. She was also the jury member that got Bonika's deadlift overturned. She was just, as a pure ref jury. She was just obnoxious.
Mike Gold is creating the world. Mike Gold is creating the world he wants to see.
But you're gonna see that in a lot of sports. You're gonna see that, like in soccer. 100%. There's gonna be like some refs that the players, when the top players like Barcelona versus Real Madrid, and they have a certain rep, like he's just gonna be handing out yellow cards throughout the entire game, and like calls that are just gonna go one way or the other. Like there's always gonna be that in the sport, and I think we just have to get over that and just adapt, and just like it's always gonna be within the sport. And I think it's honestly a good thing in powerlifting that it's in the sport. But as long as it's equal, that's the biggest thing. As long as it goes for everyone in every single way possible.
Oh my God, I've heard NFL coaches and players and NBA players especially absolutely chew out a ref or an official in a game, and and you have to be able to do it without fear of reprisal in the sense of like, yes, if you say something absolutely inappropriate, you get a technical foul in basketball, you might get unsportsmanlike call. But if you're just arguing the merits of the play, like you've seen coaches just chewing out refs, screaming at them about the merits of the play, and they cannot, they absolutely, we can't have fear of reprisal on both sides. Everybody needs to get thicker skin. This is a sport. It's an entertainment. It's something that people watch for leisure and entertainment. It has to be compelling. It has to be entertaining. It can't be like just watching a bunch of people saying nice things about each other. Like that's not ever going to be that compelling, and on the referee side, the federation sides, they got to get thicker skin. They got to be willing to take criticism. They got to let it roll off. Just like you see some of these refs like get chewed out by like LeBron, who's the biggest superstar in the world. And then they got to go continue doing their job. But then the same thing on the lifters and the athletes is like, you got to be ready for someone to come and put a mic and a camera in your face after a tough loss. You can't just run and hide. It's like in other sports, we were just talking about this. I'm a huge Bud Crawford fan, and he absolutely beat the shit out of Errol Spence. Like it was a devastating loss, which everyone thought Errol Spence was like, he had 3 of the belts and Bud only had 1, and everyone thought it was going to be a close fight. No, Vegas odds were like 50-50 or whatever. And he got dominated. They still came up to him afterwards in the ring and do the 3-minute interview that they do with the winner and the loser. He can't even talk. His face is like all puffed up. He can't even formulate a thought. His brain is like not working. And yet they still have to do the interview. And then he still had to do a full-on press conference 30 minutes later when his brain was still not working and his face was still completely messed it up. So for us in our sport, it's so easy. Like you're just lifting, like unless you have a broken leg or something. Easy. Like you're not too busted that you can't talk or formulate a thought and have a press conference.
I agree with Petrie on this, but I thought it over. And the problem here is in like UFC or NFL or NBA when they're required like press conferences, so they're all paid by the sport, and that's a requirement. So the people doing it are people that work for a sport they're paid for. The problem here is that since the lifters aren't like paid by a federation or whatever,
they're actually paying, by the way, to go to the
event. Right. No, so I'm saying what I mean is, where the problem comes is that unlike where the UFC, like you have a UFC announcer and like he doesn't care if the fighter's upset because the fighter's got to fight either way. Here, like, the people that would have to ask the tough questions potentially don't want to necessarily burn bridges. So I think in general, people in general are not confrontational. And then especially in powerlifting, you have a lot of people who are afraid to either make a hot take or afraid to say things that have to be said. Now, when it's a combination of saying something that's like not going to be received well, but also to like somebody who's like a superstar that you don't want, like I'll admit myself, right? I think that powerlifting media is too soft. But then again, I also didn't want to go interview Taylor after he lost. Like I didn't want to. So I'm admitting I was being soft. But
I was pressing him, and I was pressing Jason to do it. I was pressing Jason to do it because I was even saying exactly this, like, LeBron has to still go talk after he loses a tough loss. Tom Brady, when he loses a Super Bowl, still got to go do it. Mahomes, after losing that Super Bowl, still has to go give their press conference. But you're right. They're paid. Our athletes are not, but it was smart. And in the end, I am Jason advocated for his athlete. He made the smart call because Taylor, to his own admission when he went on King of Lifts and to me privately as well, and Jason said it to me privately as well, is just they would have said something out of pocket and that he would have regretted later. And then, but that's the thing where it's like, we got to be better than that though. We got to be able to go and control our emotions and give a press conference and not go out of pocket and just say, I'm just here. So I don't get fined.
Athletes all the time say things out of pocket in like, I think that's the problem is we're looking at it the wrong way.
Good point.
We're looking at it like obviously in a way athletes are role models, this, that, but like we're also looking at it as like they're humans and they're humans after like a big event happened, after like a heartbreaking loss, this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
It's normal. Like if you watch like athlete press conferences, like most people don't necessarily watch the regular ones. You know which ones go viral? It happens all the time. The ones where people say things out of pocket.
Exactly.
It happens.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's ideal. Maybe they shouldn't do it, but we have to realize that's normal. That's a normal thing to happen. The emotions are running hot. It's normal.
And if anyone understands that, it's Taylor. I mean, he was an athlete. Go ahead, Julia.
I mean, that's also something that Ryan was saying on King of the Lifts is that he gives athletes a lot of leeway in expressing themselves. because he knows that this matters. He said, this was on the Petrie podcast, you know, the highs are really high and the lows are really lows because people, you know, they pile on, you know, when you win, it's great. But when you lose, you know, they go after, kind of like what we saw with Petrie and Russ, you know, last year. And so, yeah, I mean, athletes do say things out of pocket all the time. And I to be honest, I think it would be good for the fans to see that a little bit, because I think it would make the athletes a little bit more relatable. I've just seen so many comments on Instagram on athletes' pages where like people are like poking at them and they like don't think that they're real people, and they're like, you know, like, oh my God, Taylor responded to me, and it's like, yeah, he's a real person, you know. And you should be able to see that should be, you know, that's part of being an athlete, and that's, you know, that's part of the sport, is they're not just like that. Their lifting is not the only aspect of their identity. So, you know, I think that would be great. And I think that, you know, maybe it you know, there could be some controversy in the beginning, but I don't think that anyone is going to be, you know, severely negatively impacted. I think people's memories are short and they'll just be, you know, on to the next thing that happens.
On to Cincinnati, to quote a famous press conference. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely what we want to get to. And I think that's the thing, is that we're breaking new ground with this kind of stuff. It hasn't really been done in powerlifting. So I don't think, some of our athletes come from other sports and they know this is just standard. Some of our athletes are like big sports fans. They listen to other sports podcasts. They see people shred each other over comments made in press conferences in the heat of the moment. And they know that you get a little bit of grace with that too, because it is the heat of the moment. But a lot of our athletes don't come from those kind of backgrounds and like don't have very much experience with other sports in the way it's done. So it's just kind of come across as like we're ruffling feathers by like trying to ask someone who just lost a heartbreaking loss to do a press conference. Like we're trying to rub it in their face or something. It's like, no, we're just trying to do basically what you would expect to see in any other sport, and to humanize you, to show you that exactly that, like, you're not a machine and that you have feelings and emotions and things like this. So I think it's good. I mean, obviously we're going to keep pushing the envelope. I think the more you do have relationships, but every journalist has a story, you know, has a responsibility to tell the truth and to tell it like it really is. And at the same time, try to still keep those relationships and to be able to be like, listen, you know, we're going to do this press conference. I'm going to ask you tough questions. It's nothing personal. You know, it's not about me digging at you. These are the questions that people want to know. Like Mike Gold, you did a really good job of saying that. Everybody wants to know. It's kind of like, hey, don't blame me for this question. Exactly. I'm just voicing what everyone else is thinking. And that's my responsibility.
I don't think there are enough people that are willing to ask those kind of questions though.
Like, yeah, but let's see. We got two of them.
I listen to a ton of powerlifting content. I listen to plenty of interviews, that podcast. Yeah. I think in general, there aren't enough people who are willing to ask questions that will make the other person upset.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what?
You got to be that guy.
Yeah.
I have no issue with it. I'm saying I couldn't care less, but I'm saying, but most people like don't want to burn bridges. Like, I don't care.
It's tough on an interview style podcast versus a press conference. I think a press conference, you're expecting
everything has its own setting, right? Not everything should be discussed the same way, but I'm saying for what Petrie's saying with these like interviews, especially like post game ones with like losing people, you can't like just go and say, "Oh, how did it feel to lose?" Like that's just like a lame question. You have to like you have to go hard. Like So
so for instance, he mentioned that, you know, he wanted to hear Gavin and he wanted to hear his reaction after missing the squat, and boom, I went and shared the story highlight from Malta that we have up still to this day. I interviewed him in the warm-up room and put it on our story right after he missed the third squat. So you get to see emotional Gavin. And then he's like, yeah, but then at that point he thought that he was still maybe had a chance to win. I want to see after he took the L. Boom, we did the press conference as well. It's up on our YouTube channel under live. You can go see it. And we did interview him and we did ask tough, and he did get into it. And like Mike, you were there, I believe. And I was, you know, we asked tough questions, not super tough. Obviously I'm a huge fan of all these people.
That was the one I wasn't there for.
This is the one you weren't there, but he talked a lot about it. Like Gavin is not scared to talk after a loss. That's for sure. So,
100%.
So he's a good one. He's a good example. We did that. Any other
But I'm
thoughts
saying,
on this, Alex, before we hit up some of these things in the chat? Okay, go ahead, Mike. What were we going to say?
yeah, I'm saying like it's got to be to the point like, I mean, this is not for the U.S. specifically, but like somebody's got to go to microphone immediately after the third deadlift and go to Jod and say, "What do you think about your coaches making you lose the world championship by putting in the wrong number?" Like, no skirting
100%.
around, like, directly, something like that, or like the same way I asked Brian's coach, right, by saying, "Why did you put in that attempt for your second deadlift, which cost Brian the world championship?"
Yes.
Like something you have to ask that. That's it. Like I know, like obviously his coach not happy about it. He made a mistake, or but like you got to directly ask that, not like, oh, whatever, like skirt around. No, directly. Like,
yeah,
how did you screw up here?
We need Michael. We need Matt Gary to ask these hard questions. All right, Alex, what's your take?
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, he's very. That would be a perfect person to do that, because I remember in at Open Nationals, we were doing the press conferences at Open, and he was asking some like tough questions after like, oh, like your day didn't go the best that you wanted to do, like why didn't it do that, and why did your third squat look like that, and what that's a perfect person. But yeah, I mean, it definitely should be incorporated more into the sport. It's a 100%. It needs to be harder. It needs to be more hardcore, and just to like create that fan base that people really want to know, and it just interacts with that person more. You really get into the mind of that person. You could sympathize with that person, and you just at the end of the day, we're all humans, and like after like LeBron loses, and like you hearing like LeBron just like, it's not my day, like God has a plan for me and stuff like that. It's nice to have people say like that, and just not everything goes their way all the time. It's nice to get those moments captured, and yeah, for sure, just like ask those hard questions that need to be asked, and it's probably the next step in the sport of powerlifting that we need to do.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people, who kind of maybe are newer to the sport, or just in general, people want more flash and glitter. This stuff is not like necessarily sexy stuff. This is not like high production level. This is just like and this is one of the crazy things I see because I follow and covered Nebraska football for so long. Sometimes it's just a guy in a hallway with a phone asking a question, like literally after the game, like asking a tough questions, like cornering a player and asking them this tough stuff. And it doesn't have to be in front of a video wall or have strobe lights or any, like that isn't the thing. It's the storylines are what are going to carry the sport forward. And we have to use basically standard press journalism tactics in order to get those stories out, like tried and true formula. All right. Last thing, unless Julia, is there anything final you want to add to that, or you give it to? Okay, so let's go to the chat here. We got just a couple things. Jordan asked, how do we make powerlifting broadcast easier to understand for a general audience, like how scoring works, what determines lifter order, etc. They did a cool thing with that in Malta. In between, they showed you these great videos with Turbo Tiff and Panna that were like what counts as a squat and bench press and things like that. I think more stuff like that would be good. Again, like longer pregame shows where you could have a 15-minute video that basically just explains the whole rules of the sport. You play that at the beginning, or you play that in the middle so that Mike and I could take a break, and like have a little 15-minute break for us. And Mike Garazzo is in here. He's saying, I think the live stream could show more weights in pounds. That would be more relatable for us Americans. And the announcers mention it, but it should just be part of the broadcast. It wouldn't be that hard. And then JW Wrench says, yeah, Bryce Lewis came up with something interesting on that. That's true. We can definitely elevate the broadcast. I mean, even Sheffield, like it looked great, but like we're so far, we're like light years away from football, and football has to cover like whatever it is, 24 guys or 22 guys out on the field, the refs, the calls, different angles, like throws, catches, runs, like tracking the ball in the air. We just got to cover like a 9 foot by 9 foot square. It's really not that complicated. Like I really think that our live broadcasts just are leaving so much on the table. Like I just think when we look back, even at this Malta, which was good, like the live broadcast, or we look back at Sheffield 1 and we look at the broadcast, just in a matter of years, we're going to look back on those broadcasts and think they were just like so basic in comparison.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of different angles. We're going to see like the lifters coming out. Like there's going to be just a lot more camera guys, because there's just, you see at the football games, soccer games, so many camera people, the angle switching, all the time. And there's always that they always have like those specific angles, like right before football play, they have that just one angle, just like that shot. And then right before and then in soccer, like when it pans out, like you see the entire field, and then it zooms in when like a player gets the ball, like when Messi gets the ball or Cristiano Ronaldo gets the ball, it zooms in on him. It really, it's gonna elevate. I definitely could, for sure see that. It just takes a lot of just growing the sport, getting more people into the sport, and then just a lot of like videography and just more people in that realm. Getting different angles of the lifter in the back room, like sniffing the salts in the back room, like not hiding that, because I feel like also because the sport is kind of soft. I remember going to powerlifting meets and you couldn't even get that on film. They're like, oh, make sure you sniff ammonia behind the back. I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, show that raw emotion that's there.
Yeah. It's still like that. I mean, you see other athletes like slapping each other up and stuff. Yeah.
Like that was so hype when Ben was slapping the shit out of Lane, and I was getting fired up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally gonna be me in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Mike, any final thoughts? I know you got to bounce.
Nah, I think we basically covered it. I think all that, like the video and all that stuff's great, and we are doing a better job. Like SPD had a billion different angles at Sheffield. Yeah. I mean, at Sheffield, at Worlds.
That was great at Sheffield too, with like the the zooming in on Gab. I love that, obviously, the angle with Gavin and Keiko. But
and the platform production was great at Sheffield too. Like the video walls were not like obnoxious. They were really cool. They did a lot of things really good, but like little things like Noemi's coming out and the French are going crazy and there's no crowd shot. Like that's a standard thing in football. Like you see the fan like just like dying after the team is down like 28-0, and like they always show those kind of clips, or when it's tight, they show the like nervous person, it's just so many little things like this to like make the sport more compelling. That are just little things. Like we already got cameras there, just turn one, it's like simple little things if you watch sports.
Yeah. I think it was on King of the Lifts where someone was talking about how, I believe it was Brittany Schlater and oh my gosh, the Belgian girl Sonita was crying, and Brittany went over to her and was like, trying to console her or something.
That was like, me telling you the story, and the moral of the story was nobody was photographing or filming it.
Right.
Or how did they not get on video when Callie ran into the stands? Like everyone jumped over, everyone jumped through the ropes and everything. How do you miss that? Like,
and they're holding people back and everything, and like so they don't go to the platform and so on. 100%.
Go ahead, Julia. Though, finish your thought.
Oh no, that's it. I mean, like these are the things that like you want to capture. I mean, or someone hitting a lift and celebrating the back room, or maybe like for example with the 83s, when Anna missed his last deadlift, you could have a camera on Delaney to 100%, see his, like, I mean, that's what we need. I mean, that just the raw emotion to show people that this isn't just we just like pick up a weight and put it down and do a golf clap and kind of like we're not trying to be Olympic weightlifting here. Like, this is different. We have our own identity.
No one watches Olympic weightlifting, honestly. Like, it's not. I mean, it's so boring. I just honestly, even golf is, the production in golf is insanely light years ahead of like so many other sports, because they make it exciting. They show you all these highlights. There's all these cuts. They're covering an 18-hole course. That's like, again, we're covering 9 foot by 9 foot in like maybe a warm-up room. But just like little things like sideline reporters, that you can go to where they could cut back and be like, hey, like we just talked to Gavin in the warm-up room and like, here's what happened. He like dive bombed that squat and he's going to try and correct it on the next one. Like I'm overhearing what he's saying. You could easily come to me and be like, I could just be in Ryan's ear and be like telling him this stuff. Those little things like this, simple. I want an elevator cam at Sheffield. Like I want to see people coming up the elevator. I want to walk through of what the warm-up rooms are like and where they have to walk to go to get to the elevator, then where they're going to go after that and where the scoring table is. We don't have any of that. We just kind of see like what they show from the side of the stage, and you kind of get a sense of it. But like an elevator cam to be like, holy shit, here comes Jesus. You know what I mean? We talked Mike Gold. We like to start our pregame shows like right after weigh-ins, because that's like breaking news. Holy shit, Evie weighed in at 52. Like, what does this mean? This changes everything. Like, let's break it down. Let's have Matt Gary and someone, other smart people like Sophia Ellis, like sitting there talking about that, like what that means for the rest of the day.
Missed opportunity. Like
huge. And
especially Sheffield with its unique scoring system, the fact that there's no pregame show like discussing it is like, it's such a big like wasted opportunity. Because generally you don't have like 16 people or 12 people battling, right? Like whatever. Here they're all battling against each other, and it's so unique. So there's such a missed opportunity not to have like, and even during the competition, like they said how things are going, but like there was no real analysis at all. Like,
yeah. And then again, like I got to give credit to like Eric Helms and Omar Isuf on the Iron Culture podcast. They're like, after you hand Chef Jesus his trophy, like put a mic up there and ask him a couple questions in front of the crowd. Like they do it at UFC, they do it at boxing, they do it at Formula One. They have walk-off interviews in NFL and NBA. The coaches give interviews at halftime. I mean, it's just like, there's so much out there that we could do. But anyway, all right, obviously we can come up with way more brainstorms, but the whole point was, if you listen to the Brandon Petrie podcast on King of the Lifts, there's a lot of great ideas in there. Some of the stuff we've started scratching the surface on that we're kind of doing in our own little world over here with Powerlifting America, but we need this stuff to go more viral. And the last thing I would say is just like, I don't even like the phrase live stream. I want it to be broadcast. Like live stream sounds like a freaking webcam or something. Like you're going to put a camera over there and turn it on and it sounds like 1995 or something. Like it's not a live stream. It's a broadcast. We need to think of it like a broadcast where there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's like, and there's production involved. Like it's not just a camera that you flip on when the competition starts and you flip it off after you hand Jesus his trophy. So yeah, anyway, those are our thoughts. Hopefully people will hear this and be inspired and want to go do this. Like do it at a local meet, do it at nationals. Like if we can do it at nationals, we're going to do it at nationals. Obviously there's some obligations and stuff with our live stream and whatnot, but hopefully at some point, if I ever have total control over our live stream, we're going to do all this kind of stuff for sure. But all right. Thank you guys so much for coming. Shout out again to Tristan Nazelrod, 120 kilo national champ and now reigning North American champ. Shout out to Alex Sydor. Thanks for coming down and giving us your insights on the juniors and sub juniors. Because I know you got a lot. We'll be talking to you a lot more in Romania. These kind of things, pre-game shows after and before, like if it's a few far enough days in advance, we'll try to get you on there, maybe during one of the first few days or maybe even on one of the equip days. If you're there a week early, we could do some, have you on camera.
Get me right off the plane. Get me like as I'm in the plane seat.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you guys got to film your whole stories. I don't know if I'm on the same flight, but if I am, I'll definitely be filming the shit out of you guys.
Absolutely.
And solid broadcast. Jordan is saying, thanks for calling it a broadcast for sure. And then of course to our co-hosts here, our leaders in charge of all of this, Mike Gold and Julia Williams. Julia just got back from a grueling week of work. And hanging out in the Cayman Islands and also just travel back and forth was tough. And obviously she balled out and won her weight class by like 30 kilos or whatever it was. And then Mike, thanks as always for what you do for us, always pushing the envelope for us. So appreciate you and appreciate everyone that listens to the Powerlifting America podcast. This is Monday Night Live on a Tuesday. Next week we got to talk about this. Maybe we'll do it on Sunday before I fly to Romania. I'm flying to Romania on Monday, so we can't do it on Monday again, or else maybe we do it on Tuesday again from Romania. Who knows? We'll talk it over. We'll post it on our Instagram story at least like 6 hours in advance, if not 24. If we could do 24, we will. Travel in Cayman Islands really threw a wrench into a lot of stuff. It was tough, but anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you again, and we'll catch you all next time. Peace. And I ended the stream.